Welcome to the Wilderness Podcast. I am your host, Trey, joined by Sae Bae. Sae Bae, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on the show. We're hopping into another one of our All About episodes. And I was listening recently to, I think it was one of Sae Bae's rambles, and he was talking about a agility expansion, an extra activity to do with agility. And I was like, man, that was really cool. How cool would it be to do that for every skill? And I was kind of trying to figure out who I would want to do that with. And I messaged the man himself, Sae Bae, about it, and he responded. I'm so happy to have him on the show. Following your content, I would like to hear your words on this. So this is just my outside perspective, and I've noticed this from watching your content that, about a year or so ago, maybe, you have this super like God tier Iron Man account, and you've progressed super far in it, and it felt like you were getting like very negative towards the game and a lot of the changes that were being made. And a lot of, it seemed like on a dime, everything changed and you kind of had this new perspective. And it seemed to be right around the time you made a new Iron Man account and started seeing the game from a new account perspective. So what was kind of happening there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess just nail down one point that you had mentioned about really being a fan of all the sweaty methods. I would say I'm more a fan of just having some sort of skill expression in skills, and not to just have it be completely AFK. I'm totally okay with AFK skills, but I'm not a fan of the super sweaty wrist breaking methods. That's kind of the whole sort of path I've been down actually in recent rambles, is really, and in my cast, is trying to give the argument that we really don't need to be having wrist breaking methods in this game. We can tone it back, and we can instead enjoy skilling through rhythm and through skill expression and through other things. I mean, we see it with PVM. PVM just gets amazing updates, and skilling has tended to be quite stagnant across the game's 12-year history now. And so just wanted to clear that up. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but on your point about the sort of transformation I had with my view of the game, there was definitely a few things that led to that. I did play a maxed Iron Man for about 5 years, and I definitely had some pretty not strict views necessarily, but just a little bit more elitist views, probably back then they would be called these days. And it wasn't quite around the time I started making new accounts. I had a group hardcore with No Monkey, Tasty, T-Papa, and Jesse. I did a group hardcore for just a few months last year in the summer. And that was my first real experience playing a new account in years. I mean, genuinely 5 years since I had maxed. And even before maxing, was a very, end game account. And it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't think I would. I felt like I always had the mentality of, wanting all progression on one account. And I had been slowly burning out from the game as a sort of high level player, because it felt like not only did the goalposts just move ever forward, there is no end to this game. But on top of that, a lot of things that I valued on my account were getting devalued, seemingly just, by nothing. It wasn't getting pulled. Things were getting pulled. And it just seemed like the achievements I had made really weren't going to be, held to any high standard, I guess. It didn't seem like I should worry that much about the crazy achievements I do, because inevitably things are going to get massively devalued years down the line. And I already knew that to some degree, but it helped playing a new account, and then it helped making my brand new Iron Man account that I made in November, which I've been absolutely loving. And because I am a one account type guy, I don't multi-log at all. I have just been playing this account exclusively. And so I would say my transformation was kind of the burnout, things I didn't like about the game, which we can get into if you'd like, and also just experiencing the game fresh again and just realizing like, wow, I really want to just focus on having fun with the game. And a lot of that fun was kind of being diminished by how I wanted the game to go, and it wasn't going down the right way that I wanted it to go down. But so it's just a sort of like a mentality shift, and also just becoming a little bit less jaded and recognizing that we're all getting older. The veterans of this game are all getting older, and we all have jobs and stuff. And I think recognizing that like this game doesn't need to be incredibly masochistic. We really should prioritize fun over everything. We still need integrity. We still need balance in the game. We still need our achievements to mean something and not get devalued. But ultimately, fun is what I think we should focus on.
Oh yeah, for sure. No,
Yeah.
I had a somewhat similar transformation. I maxed my main, the only count I've ever maxed, about maybe like a year ago or so. And I started an Iron Man, and I was always that guy that made all the Iron Man jokes and all that kind of stuff. And I've just fallen head over heels for it. This is my one account. I relate to you in a lot of ways. I am also a one account person. And you're the only other person I've heard besides me that had the same mentality about why would I start my Iron Man as a hardcore? Because worst case or best case scenario, I stay alive and then I like can't sleep at night, or I just die instantly and it's embarrassing. It's like a no-win situation. And
actually, there's a third one as well, which is, you spend so much time as a hardcore being a baby about everything. So you don't do your wilderness clues, you don't abuse the chaos altar, you don't abuse some of the nice wilderness GP methods, and then you eventually die anyway, and then you realize, oh, I just wasted a bunch of time where I was kind of playing like a baby. Yeah, and then all of a sudden you have to like have a shift of like your play style ultimately. So
all of that, and 75% chance the way you die is going to be something you can't even control. We had the servers were awful last night. We were trying to run raids and kept wiping. And it's just like, if I was a hardcore, that would have been it. And some of the thing, that Alkin thing that happened recently, that was on him. But, just as far as from a hardcore perspective, just like all that. And I'm sure that those guys have a very different perspective than maybe you or I do, where I'm sure a lot of them is like, all right, that was as far as that one got, time for the next one. And that's just a different mentality from those guys. It's incredible to me.
Yeah, Alkin's death was something different. He had spent 36,000 hours on that account.
God.
It's technically it's still an Iron Man, so it's still got everything, but he's not now competing on the hardcore high scores. But yeah, what a devastating death. And it seemed like he was playing it very safe. He had 111 HP. It feels like if you're over 99, and I don't even think he was doing an expert raid. I think it was like a 225 or something pretty low. You just don't expect three monkeys, I think two were stacked underneath each other, to just wipe you out within a tick. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. But so going back to kind of my experience, I've been seeing the game from a whole new perspective, as well as from the Iron side of things. And yeah, that early game stuff, I was like right in time to get the zombie axe right when it came out. And what a game changer that was. And like, it's been so fun that like, it feels like Jagex has just been catering their updates to me, because everything has just been so focused on like mid-game accounts. And I've been a mid-game account for, the past 6 months or so. And yeah, and I have a lot of those same things. I could have downvoted sailing, because I just maxed my account and I don't want that to, devalue that. The funny thing about, I got my Dragon Warhammer post, changing the drop rate from 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 3,000. And everybody was like, oh, well, they changed the drop rate. So, it's not as impressive. But the funny thing about it is I went to 4,500 kills for it. So I almost went to the old drop rate, and a bunch of people who got it at, 500 kills on the old drop rate were telling me that it wasn't as, it was devalued a little bit, but that's just the nature of the game. But no, it's been fun watching the progress of your account. I am extremely jealous of your Void Waker luck. I was watching that stream live.
Hell yeah.
It's kind of disgusting, honestly, the luck on that. What were your KCs for each of those?
yeah, I remember just early on in the account, I remember just imagining like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to go for an early Void Waker, you know, but I wasn't actually going to go for it. Later on in the account, I just got invited by a couple friends to go trio Vedion. And so I just was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll go over there. I had 0 KCs in any of the wildy bosses. And yeah, we roll up. I forgot a salve even. I was rocking my ice tomatlis from whatever that ice boss is in Varlamore.
Yep.
And yeah, as I'm just doing no DPS basically, and somehow 29 kills in this trio, I just see the Void Waker blade drop, and I couldn't believe my eyes. And so I was like, all right, well, we're going to go for this. And then I was getting bear tasks. I was doing a lot of Wildy Slayer early on. Got a lot of bear tasks. I was going, I mean, I went right there, just slightly over right there. But during that, before I'd gotten the hilt from RDO, I went to Spindle for my first task ever. And 19 kills in before I can even peek in the cave. You know, there's like a peak system where you have to do 20 kills. Before I could even end up seeing if there's anybody or any activity happening on. 19 KC, got the Void Waker gem. That, for those that don't know, this is like a 1 in 900 something drop. And yeah, then just slightly above drop rate, a month or so later, I pulled the hilt over at Callisto and completed the blade, the full weapon. So the Void Waker actually was my best in slot main hand weapon and spec weapon all at once. It was just super cool. And yeah, best in slot stab and slash. I guess technically my Sarah sword was my best in slot crush at the time, but it was really cool. It's a really interesting way to play the game, I think. So many people just go down the beaten path of Barrows into Moons into CG, and then kind of just, you know, they don't stray too far away from it. I definitely paved a completely different path from that. I didn't actually do any Moons or any Barrows. And we're rocking the full Bandos now. Got the Void Waker, got the Infernal. Well, gamble the Infernal. I got to go get that back, but I'm hunting a task. So.
Has that been a big, like, the way you've been running your new account, has a big part of it been doing things, like intentionally doing things differently from how you did them on your previous account?
Yeah, that's not necessarily the reason for it. I think a big reason is just, honestly, just doing what I want to do. And one of the things I really didn't want to do was grind Moons. I understand how OP it is. I can't quite say broken, but I mean, the loot is incredibly generous, even if you're not getting the items. And the items are all extremely powerful. And you're getting a full Tribird setup just from one piece of content. But the actual doing Moons, in my opinion, is quite boring. I can do a couple runs and I'm like, all right, get me out of here. And if you go dry there, it's just actual agony. And I figured it would just be cooler to just go to Bandos. You know, why not? Like, I knew how to do Bandos. I've flicked it before and I've done the range methods. And it just felt like a cooler route. And yeah, so the first thing I did, I think I only had like 76 range. I had 92 agility because I ran a bunch of laps just podcasting, and I got an early ring of endurance. I was just rolled up to Sarah, got my Sarah hilt, got my ACB, and yeah, it was just a completely different route, and it was really fun. And I think the main reason was I didn't feel rushed. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like there is this sort of rushing, like get to the next best thing. But when you've played an endgame account and you've used for years the best in slot stuff, it's kind of like, why am I trying to rush so quickly to get back to the place that I'm already at on another account? Why not enjoy a different approach? Why not enjoy, you know, subpar gear and really testing myself, challenging myself at these other places that I normally wouldn't do?
Yeah, and I think another big part of that that I kind of have talked to people about, like, you know what sucks is being on a nearly maxed account and going to like backlog, like easy diaries or something. But what's really fun is doing that like the second you're able to do them on an account. And I have also been really fighting like rushing the end game and just kind of, yeah, trying to stop and smell the roses and try to get things at the level that is kind of intended for you to get them, when they're actually, you know, like it's fun for, you know, like the zombie axe, it's fun for that to be your best in slot for quite a while until you're ready for a whip, and just taking that like one step at a time. We've had we kind of had a wave of new irons in our clan, and there's a lot of them who just were like, all right, I got to get to Toa as fast as possible, and then I'm going to get a Fang, and then I can basically just bypass all these other melee weapons. And I don't know. I've kind of had that more perspective of just like, I mean, I know from, listening to you that you feel the same way of like, I'm going to be playing this game until they flick the switch off. So why am I rushing anything?
Yeah, you may as well smell the roses. And I definitely there's different play styles. I think if I were to, as a streamer, be involved in another hardcore group, for example, I think what the audience really wants, and most likely what the group would want, is a rush to PVM, because really a hardcore group isn't going to last forever. You're expecting to die at some point, and you want to provide content. And how do you provide content? Well, you don't slow the brakes and smell the roses. Really what people want is you to get to raids, or you to go to like some end game bosses as quick as possible. So yeah, it's just a different play style, and there's nothing wrong with the rush. I just think it's much more interesting the way I've been playing this account in my head, of like really having a great foundation skilling wise. My stats are very high. And then my combat has just slowly crept up. I've definitely been getting a lot more into combat the last 2 months. So now it's pretty balanced at this point. But for a while, my stats were like abnormally high compared to my combats. Yeah.
So kind of actually transitioning a little bit into our main topic, but I do want to ask you about this, because something I've said, and once again, I am much newer on the Iron journey. I was a main for a very long time. And as I've done this, there's been, like I said, we've had a bunch of these kind of irons that have been progressing together in our clan. And there are some of those guys who I know don't like skilling. And so my stance has been to a lot of those people, at its core, the only difference between Iron Man and a main is that you have to skill. Would you agree with that?
There's obviously different things. I think one of the beauties of Iron Man as well is, you can't just buy anything you want. You right. have to get the upgrade. You're forced to learn things. I think that's almost more core than just the fact that skilling means more. It's not just about just getting to 99 at some point. There are many skills in the Iron Man mode where, it's like I need to get 92 mining if I want to start shooting amethyst darts with my blowpipe. Like that's going to be a massive DPS upgrade. And there's like huge milestones like that. It's the same with herblore. If you ever want to get super combats, you really got to do your farm runs. And so there's just more meaning to things. I think on a main, there's the question of why would you even do an herb run when you can just go kill some more bosses and you can just do tree runs instead and get faster XP. It's just that constant tug and pull of like, do I just do the super, super efficient thing? And I think on a main, it's very easy to fall into that trap of just doing everything efficiently, just grinding the best money maker, doing the best XP. Or Iron Man, you really get a lot of options, and it's just fun because, it's just you can just go about it different ways, and it means something every time you're gaining XP.
For sure. All right, so getting into our kind of main topic of the night. So my plan is that we're going to look at each of the non-combat skills in the game, and kind of there's one of three categories that we can put them into. The first one is like no help needed, like we're good as is, nothing needs to be changed. The second one is like, I think that it could be, all the problems could be solved with tweaks to existing content. And the third one is like, I think we need some new content to fill in a gap or to make this skill better, or like, obviously for every single skill in the game, every single piece of content in the game, obviously adding more stuff and adding new ways of doing it is fun. But like this one needs an additional thing because it's lackluster or it's missing something right now. So as going into that, just going down alphabetically, the first one we have is agility. So agility is notorious. It's 50% of the player base's least favorite skill, and the other 50 will be rune crafting. But and like I said earlier, agility was kind of what inspired this whole episode, because you had this idea that you had pitched. I know that we are both sepulcher lovers. I think that, sepulcher shows what agility can be as opposed to running in circles. And yeah, I would love to see, I guess, kind of before I turn it over to you, I think very broadly, the two things I would love to see from agility would be a lower level sepulcher style thing and something that's actually AFK, not the bullshit colossal worm course that's not barely any more AFK than rooftops. But yeah, what are your thoughts on agility? Where does it land in those three categories?
Yeah, well, to categorize it, definitely I would say the third, which is there's not just little, fix ups. I mean, this needs to be transformed in some way. And luckily, we do have Sepulcher to really contrast with what agility has always been. And agility traditionally can all be categorized into one box, which is just rooftops. I mean, it's ultimately every single course. There's no rush to do anything. There's no rhythm to anything. It's just click next obstacle, click next obstacle. You can do it whenever you want. There's nothing. It's literally, there's zero skill expression other than, okay, if you want to do this the fastest, just click the next box when you see it next. And it's just quite pathetic. And even, 2024, when, Varlamore Part 1 dropped and we were getting this brand new course that was, quoted as like, oh, this is going to be kind of more AFK. It's just a rooftop course. That's all it is. It's just a maybe slightly more AFK rooftop course, but ultimately what you would really want from a slightly more AFK rooftop course is maybe obstacles back to back to back to back, and then a very, very long obstacle. So you actually could AFK, not just expanding every single AFK transition by a few seconds. I mean, that it feels like you still need to be at your computer every single 12 seconds or so to hit the next obstacle, rather than traditional rooftops. Maybe it's like, 7 seconds or whatever. So what I would love to see, and this is, just, you had mentioned, listening to one of my rambles, and I've talked about this many times on my Sae Bae casts and on my rambles, where I'll talk about the flaw with agility. Many people are calling for just, double the XP rates across the board, and that'll be enough. And I'm just, first of all, I think that's a very bad way to go about it, just doubling XP for the sake of it. I think what we really should do is focus on fun for agility. And Sepulcher definitely is fun and it's very rewarding. I think that's also very important with skilling. This is a broader issue, which is actually having skilling be rewarding, which is difficult currently because many people can't see how much more fun skilling and how much more skill expression there could be in skilling. I mean, imagine if skilling went down a similar route as PVM, where we're going to come out with these new skilling methods that genuinely are quite difficult to learn. They're not wrist breaking. There's nothing inherently like, I don't know, terribly difficult about it. I mean, when you look at PVM, everything can be done eventually, but there will be some challenges you need to overcome. With skilling, everything is dumbed down. I always bring up the example of Giants Foundry. We released this brand new smithing minigame. You learn it within 15 seconds, and it's just a toddler color matching game. I mean, just go to the next station when you see the color. Go to the next station.
I got some words for Giants Foundry later.
Yeah. But with agility, if anybody in the audience is that listening has done any Yama, I mean, Yama is exactly something that I've been kind of advocating for. A short, intense one ticking of an obstacle. You're jumping across these stepping stones to the next area. Now that's in a form of PVM. What I imagine is a sort of like, I'll try to like illustrate it as best as I can. But if you've ever seen like Ninja Warrior, American Ninja Warrior, I know actually one of the guests on my cast was actually on this like Australian Ninja Warrior or something. But if you kind of know what I'm talking about, or if you've ever seen the show Wipeout, it's like you have these little obstacles that you're going over. And then you have a short little break, and then you're going to the very next obstacle. And they kind of get more and more difficult. There's monkey bars, there's little balls you got to jump on with swinging things that might hit you. And ultimately, what I would love to see is a course that is very rhythm based. So one of the stations you'd go to, the first set of obstacles, is maybe just a simple stepping stone, but it needs to be one ticked. You need to click it every one tick. And if you miss a tick or you spam click too much, you'll fall off. And so there ends up being this necessity to be very rhythmic with it. But what you're not doing is knife logging every fucking time and just breaking your wrist doing something silly like that. But it's not as difficult as Sepulcher either, because ultimately these are just click boxes you're clicking on a certain rhythm, and nothing's too difficult about it. It will be difficult initially because you got to learn the pattern. So the next station might have, you scaling a little wall. And what you have to do is click on one click box on the wall, click on the next one, and maybe it can be alternating patterns of click on this side every 1 tick and on the other side every 2 ticks. So it's like a 1 tick, 2 tick, 1 tick, 2 tick, and something like that where it's a bit odd at first. You're trying to figure out how to do this. You keep slipping off, but as soon as you get it, you get it. And there is this sense of it's very simplistic. You will become more and more masterful at it as you go on. Beginners will be slipping up here and there, and you can laugh at them once you've put in 10 hours into the content and you're feeling good about it. And then one of the things that people absolutely love is this sort of animation delay. There is something very satisfying about vengeance casting and running somewhere, and then all of a sudden your dude just fucking beelines it, toward the destination. And we could be having something like that where the animations look so satisfying, jumping to stepping stones. And let's say you've passed the obstacle and your dude's just slightly behind. And so when you're going to the next station, your dude just zip lines it to the next spot. And you are just in this beautiful rhythm where nothing's sticking you to the ground. You don't have to wait at all. And it's just very simplistic, but ultimately there's rhythm and you can't mess up the rhythm. And so I also brought up the idea, this sort of helps illustrate it. If anybody's played Geometry Dash, it was a really popular iPhone game. It's so simple. You're just tapping your phone, but it's so rhythmic. You got to be jumping your little square whenever, it's time to do it. And it's actually going with the beat of a song. So I don't imagine this would have the beat of a song going with it. But if you did have a sort of like 100 BPM song going on, I think you really could get into a really beautiful rhythm with something like this. And I would love it to have really generous XP rates. It could even be higher than Sepulcher. And it would be easier than Sepulcher, but maybe it wouldn't have the rewards. Or you could, balance it so it has some really cool rewards and just about the XP rate of Sepulcher. But now you have a legitimate option that's not Sepulcher, and it's not these boring rooftops that you got to do for 300 hours. It's genuinely engaging. You genuinely feel like you're learning stuff. It's just perfect. It's something that really we have not seen in this game. And I think so many people would absolutely love something like this. And it would transform agility. It would genuinely make people excited to train it. And it's one of the easiest skills to work with because it isn't a traditional gatherer or a buyable. It's a little bit on that gray area. It's the same with thieving. Thieving is definitely in that gray area as well. But that's my proposal, is really what the devs need to do is work on something truly rhythmic, truly enjoyable, and not masochistic in any way, and not super, super slow. Let's just have something fun and rewarding.
Yeah, I felt like for, I don't know, maybe the past couple months or so, I've really felt like I'm on the precipice as a RuneScape player of breaking through that barrier that so many high-level PVMers talk about, where they say they start seeing RuneScape as a rhythm game. And I feel like I'm so close to that. And there's little instances of it happening. Like, for example, when you do the skulls, if you're not skull skipping at TOA, if you learn to click those skulls every time you see an XP drop and you do the perfect timing on that, and it feels really good. And last night I was learning the step under method for Araxor for the enraged phase, stepping under, and just the timing of that. And then I'm imagining that, like, with what you're saying, take a Araxor out and have it like if it was just like ropes on the ground, like you're doing like a serpentine on a rope, and that same timing that I could see it being the type of thing where that's in the agility course and you do that as a lower level. You haven't learned to love PVM yet, and you get 92 Slayer, you go to Araxor and you learn the step under method, and it's like, oh, this is just like that rope course. Like, it has that same feeling to it, and that I'm like looking for that now. And I'm fully on board with what you're pitching. It could be a really cool way of even sneakily teaching people. They've done such a good job recently with their PVM of teaching people, like preparing people, like with Moons, preparing people for later PVM, kind of getting those things. I was doing an entry top with someone for the first time, and I was trying to explain Verzik, and they said, oh, it's like the Jaguars. And I was like, yes, thank God that's in the game. That's so helpful. And I could see agility taking that to the next level with different ways, or even just kind of showing people, kind of like I'm saying, breaking through that barrier of seeing the game in that rhythmic way.
Yeah, I mean, the game ultimately becomes most enjoyable once you've really internalized the rhythm. This is ultimately just in a rhythm game. It's a 0.6 second rhythm game where every single thing happens on a tick timer. And once you kind of can just intuit that, everything becomes much more smooth and it doesn't feel like things are laggy because you're just anticipating things. And what's really important and absolutely essential if we want skilling to have a really, good future going forward is embracing that and not going down the route of, I like to bring up the example of the Wintertodt brazier where you click the brazier and nothing's happening immediately. You got to wait a few seconds. Things need to like queue up almost.
Yeah.
It's just so awful. It feels sticky. It's bad. You get frozen. Your dude is not doing anything. You try fletching again. Takes 3 seconds for anything to start happening. It's just really bad gameplay. It's just not fun. People accept it because it's just what we're used to. And it's like, oh, well, it's clunky and quirky and that's old school. Haha. But imagine we had gone down that route with PVM where we never progressed. We never started actually pushing the ceiling forward or really getting into more rhythmic gameplay. I don't know if you've even seen what they've done to Yama within literally a couple days of its release. They have
it's
this
incredible
dono fly method where you're just running around and it's super rhythmic. It is a cycle that you're running in and you're just making Yama your bitch. I mean, it's just like, it's so fun. And they did the same thing with Olm. I mean, maybe that was a happy accident, but like soloing Olm, when you learn it, it's an incredible feeling. It's just like Olm can't even find you. He keeps turning his head and you're just completely manipulating him. It feels great and it's all rhythm. And that's the kind of stuff we need to focus on with skilling. And I mean, there's a whole nother thing to go down with tick manipulation and getting rid of getting rid of the wrist breaking nature of this kind of stuff. But still keeping what's good. And the good stuff is the flow, is the rhythm, is the satisfaction of predicting when you're about to extract a resource, for example, in gathering. And this is just, in my opinion, and the argument I've been spewing for years at this point, is this is what the future of skilling is going to look like, is really going down a similar path as PVM without the bosses, but focusing on the rhythmic nature of it all.
Okay, so yeah, that's agility. I guess the last question I would have on agility is, do you think there is a place in the game, or in what would you think it would look like to have an actual true AFK agility? I mean, is that just a treadmill, or is there anything that could be added for that?
I mean, what's the most, I mean, right now we have something that I'm pretty sure will never be patched, which is just foot pedaling Brimhaven agility, which you can just literally tap in one spot repeatedly and gain about, I think it's high 30Ks, maybe 36 or up to 40K, maybe XP an hour. I think you have to hit a certain level before you stop failing. But I mean, that's quite AFK. I don't think I'm on board with a fully AFK, something like star mining. I think every skill should have some sort of AFK methods, but I don't think every single skill universally should have something like AFK for 5 minutes and get XP. I don't think that's necessary. If they did go down that path, I mean, the community wanted it and they were just completely uproaring, I guess we could have that conversation. But honestly, I think rooftops are fine as is. I think you definitely could have some way more AFK spots. I mean, something like I was saying earlier where maybe it's a rooftop, but you do a few obstacles within a matter of seconds. So there's a little bit of clicking, and then all of a sudden you have a full, 40 seconds of watching your dude slide down this fucking spiral slide or something like that. Something where it truly is forced AFK. You got to do this, and this is now, and it's pretty low XP per hour. I wouldn't want anything competing with what we have now in the meta. But yeah, I'm totally okay with very slow XP rates. By just having some sort of agility, stuff like that. And listen, we're going to talk about this when we hit rune crafting. I guess I'll just hint at it. But I would love it if rune crafting had some methods that were similar to Yama, that little Yama stepping stone, where the altar is a cross and agility obstacle. It doesn't have to be the Yama thing exactly, but imagine there was a new place. I've even hinted at it. I think I called it the Cosmic Underworld. It was this YouTube video idea I had, where it's almost implementing agility with rune crafting. To get to the altar, you're doing agility, but you're training rune crafting, you're training agilities. Nothing's too sweaty about it. It's just a little bit more interactive. And that could be a way where, man, I really hate agility and I really hate rune crafting, but I can do this and treat it as rune crafting, but now I'm getting passive agility XP and I don't even feel it because it's just part of the rune crafting, or vice versa. So I think there are some elements of combination skills that can make it feel like agility is being passively trained, or even rune crafting being passively trained.
Yeah, no, I think, passive is a great word there. I mean, I think there's definitely an argument to be made that of any skill in the game, agility, I mean, it's literally agility. It's moving. I can see the argument that even from a thematic standpoint, it can never be AFK, because it's, it's agility, you're moving around. It's all about speed and all that kind of stuff. So I don't ever want to see any kind of, treadmill or that kind of thing. I would agree. I don't think every single skill has to be AFK. We have those skills, and those are great to do when you are, wanting to be super AFK, but maybe not every skill has to be that. So yeah, let's move on. Our next skill we have is construction. So this is, I think this is not super different between mains and irons. It kind of breaks down to mahogany homes, or building something, destroying it, and building it over again a million times. And that's kind of where we are with construction. This has been actually what I've been most recently doing on my Iron Man. And I'm 96 construction, and it's been breaking down for me. I cannot decide if I have about 8,000 mahogany planks in my bank, and I cannot decide if I want to just send mahogany homes for the rest of that should get me to 99, or if I want to just find, just wait on miscellanea to give me enough mahogany logs, or to go chop them myself. But yeah, that's kind of the two options we currently have for construction, it feels like. And I think construction is a skill that really flies under the radar for a lot of people because it's so fast. We have a few skills like that in the game that all of their faults kind of get overlooked because they're just so fast. And it's like, oh yeah, it sucks, but it'll be over really quickly. But I think that construction is a very weird skill. I mean, mahogany homes, you're just left questioning, what is wrong with these people? I fix their house and I come back and they've already destroyed it again. Like, are these people like just, binge drinking and wrecking their house every time I leave? But I don't know.
I think they've just become so awake. They realize they're in the Andrew Gower simulation, and they're like, "Get me out of here!" Just whatever will wake people up. And just destroy my house over and over.
Oh, they took the red pill, and they know they're in a simulation. Oh, that's yeah. So yeah, I have a couple thoughts for construction. But before I say what I got, where do you think this lands on what we need in the game?
I think very minor fixes would be appropriate with something like construction. I think it is, it's kind of an old school skill. We've gotten so much quality of life over the past couple of years. I mean, with left click construction, that was something I was definitely advocating for. Just because if we have menu entry swapper, why are we gatekeeping certain menus? Why are we doing this? And it felt like there's just this kind of lingering elitism that just was slowly getting purged. And we still haven't quite purged it yet. We're still knife logging with tick manipulation stuff. I think that's one of the last things that'll go, hopefully, at some point. But
have you? Sorry to interrupt. Have you seen the construction QOL plugin?
Yeah, it's extremely broken.
That feels like cheating.
Sad. It makes me almost sad that I can't just use, or that I really just can't go and do traditional construction, because on Iron Man, you really are limited by your GP and your planks. And so it just feels like you got to do mahogany homes for much of it. But, oh yeah, if you're just doing traditional construction, that plugin, I mean, you're just holding one key on your keyboard. You can just have something resting on that key and you're just left clicking. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm not against it. I really am not these days, just because I see construction as a gold sink skill. I want it to be that just, okay, you're spending money and we're going to make it quick. And why are we going to be doing this gatekeeping of, I don't know, maybe the construction QOL. I mean, there's definitely an argument to be had that maybe you should have a little bit going on where you're switching between your keys, but
yeah, but I mean, to put things into your words, is there really skill expression in pushing 1 and then pushing 6 and then pushing 1 again? Or is that just tedious?
I mean, there definitely is some skill. I mean, to upkeep it long term and to maintain these rates, that'll always be one of the arguments with removing any sort of.
That's fair. Yeah.
Clicking or anything. But yeah, I just think ultimately people enjoy it. People enjoy it more just hanging out, relaxing, and just clicking. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things I would love to see, this is something I've mentioned years back, is I would love to see way more agility shortcuts all across the game. I know I say agility, but I'm going to tie in construction. And one of the ways they can do that is building shortcuts. So you now have these somewhat similar to stash units. Stash units are something you build, a one-time build, and you can store your clue scroll items into it. I would love to see something similar. I mean, imagine going to the True Blood altar. There's this little shortcut you can squeeze into. Imagine that was actually something you had to mine out. So you get, you have a certain mining requirement to it. You got to spend some mining. It's a one-time thing. You just get a huge chunk of mining XP for the one-time clearing out. And then on top of that, now you have to build some infrastructure inside with some planks and everything else. You have this sustainable tunnel, and you get this fat amount of, construction XP, bringing all the resources in. And I would just love to see more of that, where all across the game, if you want to build a shortcut, if you want to build this new thing that's jumping the castle walls, you can build these little, wooden stepping stones or something across the wall. It's like a one-time sort of stash unit vibe where you build it and it's construction XP, and it's quite generous because it is just a one-time build. So you can't just repeatedly remove it and rebuild it, but they'd have different level requirements. And I think that would be very interesting. It would make construction more interesting as well. And if they were generous enough with it, if it required enough supplies, I mean, I would hope it would be something like bring the noted planks, something where it's not just going to be, 20 planks or whatever, just in one inventory, but somehow magically there's a leprechaun there and he's like, you know what, I'll help you, bring the noted planks over here. And it's some big, fat amount of it, but you're going to get all that XP for it. Just something more fun like that, where it is kind of a training method. You're going around the world building your shortcuts when you do get the requirements. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, I think Mahogany Homes is great. They've added some amazing quality of life to that. I do think there's more room for rewards there. It shouldn't be monetary, but we could definitely have some sort of system going on, maybe some POH themes coming from it, or maybe even I don't even know. Like you could offer clue scrolls from it. You could offer just other things that don't have to be money related. But yeah, I think Mahogany Homes is really good as is.
Yeah.
One last thing is the lunar spell plank make. That needs to be fully automated, and it needs to be 3-tick on automation. That is my take on basically enchant spells as well, and many spells. Many of the skilling spells, I'm sorry, but when you're enchanting things, I'm going all over the place. I know you're good. But it's like with enchanting, it's like, come on, why are we going to have an automated enchanting, but now it's like 9 ticks instead of the traditional 3 ticks? Why do we have to click every single one if we want to maintain the 3 ticks? It's just really pathetic. I think everything should be like the lunar string amulet spell. If you've ever used that, you click it one time, don't even have to click anything in your inventory. You just literally click string amulet, and all of the amulets that are unstrung in your inventory now get automatically every 3 ticks strung. And it's beautiful. Perfect. We need to do more things like that. But yeah, plank make, fix that.
Well, and the other big lunar quality of life that comes up a lot in Mahogany Homes is, why does your character have to freeze when you cast NPC contact?
Yeah. And why is there such a goddamn massive delay on that?
Yeah.
It's so archaic. Yep.
No, I also enjoy mahogany homes quite a bit. I've done it almost exclusively on my Iron Man, which is I'm just being a good Iron Man on that one. I was actually laying in bed a couple nights ago thinking about this podcast, and I was thinking about construction and like, what can you even do with construction? And I kept thinking, I think it bothers me more than other people. I just think it's funny, the mahogany homes thing, how they're always destroying their house. And so I had this idea, because the two things about mahogany homes is that they're always destroying their house and all of the running and teleporting, right? And so I had this idea of what if it was kind of the same idea as mahogany homes, and this would be like maybe something at like 90 construction, but what if there was a haunted mansion that you had to go repair that had this like poltergeist, this malicious ghost that was just, as you were building stuff, and as you fixed up the attic, he was in the basement, destroying in the basement, and then you had to go down and fix it and stuff. And that could be like a kind of silly but fun mini game, very similar to Mahogany Homes, without all of the teleporting around, NPC contacting, and just kept to one place. And if you had kind of a supernatural force, you could add in all kinds of other elements. The floor could fall out, and you'd have to do some kind of agility thing to get around it. There's agility again. You could work in almost every skill in the game if you really wanted to, but that was the only thing I could really think of to what could grow from construction. But I would say, as is, of all the skills in the game, as is, it's in a pretty good place. But there's always fun things to do with it.
I agree, and that is a brilliant idea, the mansion idea. I think that would be really cool to have a haunted mansion, and then on top of that, you just have this like bank chest down beneath, and so you're just always able to just grab more planks, and you got this nice little one tick rhythm, just repairing, boom, 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 boom. The ghost is destroying it all, and you got this nice little cycle going on. And maybe there's some broken floorboards you got to jump over, get some passive agility XP. That'd be really cool, man. Yeah,
that would be. Okay, so that's construction. Our next skill is cooking. I'll just say I think cooking is perfectly fine as is. It's a perfect skill. And anybody who's ever watched the Sae Bae Cast knows how much you like to cook. Is there anything you would change about cooking?
Yeah, actually, I would love to see a bakery mini game. I know that sounds very corny, but we have this mess hall. I mean, that's just the most atrocious piece of content to work with. Horrible. But imagine you had a new place. It's like a restaurant, it's like a medieval restaurant. And they've started figuring out conveyor belts and stuff. I mean, we already have conveyor belts in the Dwarven City with blast furnace, but they got these conveyor belts, and they got these massive pots of flour. So you just are mass dumping flour. And this would be the blast furnace of cooking, but you're making the things that you don't want to make manually, like pies, like pizzas, like, what's the other one I'm thinking of? This could even be involved in brewery. I mean, we could, that's a whole nother topic. We don't need to go down there in this episode, but.
Are you talking about mass making the food items that we already have in the game?
Yes. Okay. So.
Ooh, I like that.
There's many people that would just love to, I would just imagine this huge bucket where, you pull out 28 pots of flour, and within one tick, it's all in this big, huge barrel. It's like blast furnace. Imagine it. You just go up to the conveyor, boom, you've dumped all this flour. Just repeatedly dump flour, and this thing can hold 500 flour. And now you got this other thing where you're just humidifying over and over and over with the lunar spell, dumping into this big barrel of water. And now you got all your pastry ingredients right there. Now you can mass make, and it just gets on this conveyor belt. Maybe you're even paying the NPCs, similar to blast furnace, to start creating the dough. Or maybe you have a machine that's shaping the dough into what you want, either the pies or the bread or the pizzas or whatever you're thinking. And then again, you're shoving all of your, chompies or whatever it is, chompies and rabbits and bear meat, I think, to make the wild pies. Mm-hmm. Just mass dumping it into this thing, So it's like, you just got this massive like blast furnace system of mass creating your food. And this would be more bakery items. So I think that would be an amazing mini game. I think it'd be really interesting. It would just go against what we traditionally do, which is just fish, And then you are just at a range, cooking that fish repeatedly, and that's just the best. Or wines, and you just make your wines over and over and over. Something that's a bit more interactive, but super fun, and you can actually have really cool, valuable food. I even think we should expand on pies and pizzas in the future. But yeah, I think that would be a really cool mini game. But yeah, I mean, cooking, ultimately, a lot of the bank standing skills are, in my opinion, quite classic, quite old school, and they don't really need to be worked on that much. But that would be an interesting mini game to introduce.
No, that's a cool idea. I like having the option, especially, once again, especially on an Iron Man, to be like, oh man, I'm about to do all of like, oh, I really want to boost for a whip and I don't want to sit here and make a bunch of pies. So like I can just, run through this and just pop them all out all at once. Or I've gotten all of these like secondaries from whatever, skilling or PVM I've been doing. And I just, very similar to Blast Furnace, like you're saying, like, oh, I've accumulated all of this ore. Let's just go dump it all at once and knock out a couple levels or something. So that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it would be great. And for people worrying about, oh, well, how are you going to, you still have to go and rough out all the ingredients like the chompies and whatever else. It would be cool if those are one of the rewards from the mini game. So you can make the basic stuff. You can make the breads or whatever, or maybe there's even contracts. Make these things and we'll give you a shit ton of ingredients so you can make the pies and things that you do want. And again, we could expand on the pies so there's more useful things, maybe even some higher healing pies that, because it is a 2-bite thing. Maybe have some pie that heals like 30 overall.
Yeah, that
they 15 in each bite.
They've kind of experimented with alternative healing, with the Varlamore meats and stuff, and I could definitely see that same concept coming in with with some of these pies and stuff. So that is cooking. Our next skill is crafting, probably the most like amorphous skill in the game. There's just so many facets of it, and sometimes crafting, you're not sure if it should be fletching or if it should be smithing. It's just kind of a catch-all skill. But I mean, as is crafting, it's hard to say because I mean, coming once, I don't want to have to caveat everything saying from an Iron Man perspective, but even from a main perspective, it's getting a whole bunch of stuff and making it, and especially Iron Man, it's just blowing thousands and thousands and thousands of glass. But I don't know. I'm not sure what crafting could have added to it that isn't just either having 14 of one thing and 14 of another thing and combining them, or one thing with 27 of another thing and processing it into something else. Where do you see the future of crafting?
So yeah, I do think it needs some work. I think right now, it is just quite a boring grind, and people just follow what the meta is, which is glass blowing and or dehyde making or whatever you're doing on a main. I actually proposed an idea that actually got introduced into the game a couple of years after I had proposed it, which was the Dorgish Khan light orb activity, which originally just gave Firemaking XP. And I made a full video explaining how you could actually improve this whole mini game, giving double of the wire that you're thieving at the little, what's it called? Cave Goblin wire. There's a little machine, and I was proposing like maybe get 2 at once. Maybe give crafting XP when you're fixing the lamps with Firemaking XP, things like that. And then you're getting some bonus XP as you're going about it. So there actually is an activity. It's not balanced well. I mean, I had proposed it years and years back where I definitely could have been a bit more generous with what I was proposing. But one of the issues with it is a quite high requirement to start being efficient with it. Like getting the double Cave Goblin wire takes the elite Lumbridge diary, which, at that point, it feels like this is not even the spot where you're going to be wanting to do this. But there's a lot of issues with the mini game. It's not balanced correctly, but they could go in there. It's just a numbers thing, honestly, to make it so it's worth it. But yeah, you could just run around the city. There's even a plugin that shows you the broken lamps. You bring all the lamps over there. You get 500 crafting XP every single time you fix a lamp. It's kind of interesting. But on top of that, something I would love to see is the crafting guild getting an expansion, getting a basement. And the basement would have all the other facilities that are lacking in the crafting guild. So like a loom and whatever else, you have like I think there already is a pottery oven in there, but basically everything that you would need downstairs. And then what you would have downstairs is similar to the hunter guild. You would have a sort of roomer / it wouldn't be a rumor system, but it would be a contract system similar to farming contracts and whatever else. Completely optional, but you can do it, and it would say, we need you to go weave this many nets or whatever, make these baskets for this person. And so you're actually training crafting in these different ways. And what they would need to do to actually balance this properly is genuinely go into crafting and fix these god awful XP rates. I mean, when you're making, when you're putting soft clay into a pottery oven, you're getting like 15 XP, just something so pathetic. It's so bad. It's just like, it hasn't been looked at. It hasn't been dusted off in 24 years or whatever. And we just have dominating metas. And I think what we could really do, even if they weren't to introduce a contract system, what they should really do is introduce, or not even introduce, but just go in and rebalance these XP rates. Make it so you can be that guy that mines the soft clay and then turns that soft clay into pottery. And maybe there's even rare chances of making a cool, perfected pottery thing that you can now sell to an NPC for some decent change. Just things like that, where it's like, okay, this doesn't need to be the meta, but introduce some more variety that does give, competing, at least in some degree, crafting XP per hour. I think it's one of those things that just needs to be looked at, because there is so many avenues to go down, but everyone just focuses on the very, very few that are just dominating in the XP per hour. So I think just some rebalancing there would be great.
It'd be really cool to add on to your kind of rumors idea is if similar to rumors, where it's like, oh, we heard a rumor of this. It would be cool if they sent you somewhere to make something. So for example, like if they said, oh, the ranging guild needs 50 hard leather bodies or something, or we need you to make these baskets for the people of Relica or something. You need to go make them in Relica, and you go there and you make it. It would feel very thematic, like you're going around the world and helping people where they need it and using your crafting. I could see that being a really fun gameplay loop to add on to that, add some like thematic to it as well.
Yeah. I even think, I worry about the actual training it over in those locations. I think it would be cool to deliver them. I think what would ultimately be actually probably the most fun long-term is actually having all the facilities in the basement of the crafting guild. Mm-hmm. So it's this constant hub you return to. You would obviously need the supplies. Maybe you're getting the supplies from the sacks that you'd get. Who knows? We get these crafting sacks and get the material. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, we need you to make, 75 of these baskets or whatever. But you're just in this very, contained area where you can just do it. There's a bank chest right there. You go, you make them, and then you deliver them. So you do have to, eventually teleport, deliver them all noted, give them to the person, return back. Maybe there's even a chance where it's like, I love the rumor system, because one of the things is you can finish early. It'll tell you to do something, and then at any point it can just finish. And I think that would actually be kind of cool to be able to introduce into something like this as well. But yeah, having all the stations down there, I think would actually be slightly less of a hassle. Yeah, it would just be more like, okay, this is a bit more contained.
No, that's a cool idea. Yeah, because it's like they hear a rumor of people who need something, you make something for them in their workshop there, and then you go deliver it to them. That sounds really fun, actually. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. That's a good expansion to it. What's next?
Moving on to farming. Farming is another what I consider an S tier skill. I personally, I think farming has so many facets to it. It's one of those skills that there's so much room for expansion. It obviously, in a perfect world, there's 100 different things I would love to see added to farming. There's been, I can't think of what they called it, but there was the whole, it was kind of a mixture of farming, had some construction to have like animals in your house, that kind of idea and stuff. But as if it was a question of realistic like dev time, I think farming is perfect as it is, but there are so many things that could be added to it. What do you think about farming?
Yeah, farming is great. I do wish seed packs had rare. in them. I wish that opening seed packs would make you feel a little bit more like, okay, there's actually a chance I can get, a valuable piece of equipment. I mean, when they were first talking about the original demonic digger, which eventually became the demonic spade, I believe, or the diabolical spade, I think that's what they eventually renamed it, and then they just scrapped the idea entirely. That could be something that doesn't come from Yama or whatever else. It could come from farming itself, and it could come from these contracts. And it doesn't need to be as OP as it was originally proposed, but something where, that you now have a chance of getting some valuable tool upgrades. And I think that would be just slightly more interesting, slightly, keeping your, I don't know, it's just something about that's how PVM thrives. Is like you just have these the potential chance of getting the nice drop, and I think skilling needs to do with that a little bit more. But yeah, I love farming. I think farming, the only things I would love to see slightly improved is, you can double harvest herbs, you can double harvest allotments, but you can't double harvest seaweed. What's going on there? Can we allow that glitch? Can we allow it for you to spam click it for a few seconds or do the double tap over people do it, and then now get the double seaweed, so you're getting 2 every 3 ticks instead of just the 1. It's just so painfully slow witnessing yourself just sitting there. And they need to do the same thing with berry bushes. I think you should be able to spam click those for a few seconds and now get double berries. Same thing even with fruit tree patches. I even think fruit tree patches should get the same effect as berry bushes. Back in the day, if you recall, berry bushes only used to give 4 berries, and only 1 would grow back like every 15 minutes or something. And there was only ever 4. So it was like, as an Iron Man, if you're trying to collect your white berries, it was like you had to repeatedly go to the monastery and grab your 4 white berries every so often. And they changed it so now you can get up to 50 plus, I've seen. And they should do the same thing with fruit trees, I think. I think fruit trees should give more than 6. I think it would be kind of interesting to allow that and double the speed. I think that's just, these are very minor things that I think would go a long way. But yeah. Overall, love farming. Great. Yeah,
love it. Okay, so going on to firemaking. So I actually, for the first time this week, tried out the full XP Forester's Campfire. I was at work on my phone and just chopped an inventory of U logs and just AFK burned them all. And that was, it feels in a lot of ways kind of feels like what firemaking, it should have always been there as far as just I'm burning logs. But then obviously the other side of it, the kind of the most almost biggest memes in the entire game is Winter Todd. And I think probably I've heard the most from you of anybody about the tweaks at Winter Todd. I actually have not gotten back there since they've made the changes, but by all accounts, it's much improved. Still some room for improvement there. But yeah, I think firemaking's in a good spot now with that, that super AFK method. It feels like, cooking or something where you just have a full inventory, you burn them all. That's the chill way to do it. But then you got Winter Todd if you want some rewards, you want something a little more interesting. What are your thoughts on firemaking?
Yeah, nothing really to say here. I think the campfire change, given full XP, was absolutely the good move to make. It was very silly it was like a third of the XP or something. Yeah, it was a third. Horrible. Yeah. That was a good change. That was a great change.
Yeah. Moving on to fishing. So fishing is actually, I've been debating calling it this, but it might be my least favorite skill in the game, and I can't really explain why. I love mining and I love woodcutting, but for some reason, something about fishing, it feels much slower than the other ones. But when you really look at what's available, I do love how many options there are for fishing. All the different things you can catch. And once again, on an Iron Man, there's, you can get onyx bolt tips, or you can go get Zoru scales, or you can get all kinds of, obviously food for different things. And then, with Temperos, you have the kind of, the Winter Todd reskin of it. But so fishing has all these different facets. I think it was when I was maxing, I chose fishing as my AFK skill, and it was mostly just finding things that it was the 15,000 XP an hour for some of these fishing methods they're AFK, but they're not stars AFK. You still have stuff despawning, and when it's So I guess to explain for you, Sae Bae, I work construction and I will AFK by literally putting my phone in my pocket and hearing when something happens and pulling my phone out and tapping it. And I should be fired, but it's how I've managed to do a lot of my AFK skilling. But yeah, so
I would hire you, honestly.
Thank you. It's fishing. I don't know. For some reason, something about the way that the flow of it goes is just it's never clicked for me in the way that mining and woodcutting has, and I've never been able to put my finger on it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on fishing?
Yeah, fishing. It almost feels like fishing should be good. I've never really particularly enjoyed fishing. It just never. I don't know. There's something just off about it. I think most of the things that are off about fishing is there. So much of like the efficient fishing is dropping all your resources, which I think is so silly. We need to stay away from that kind of stuff. The power fishing, as it's called. I mean, like one of the things I actually did enjoy doing, very risk breaking, and that's another call to action to get the devs to introduce a gnome cube or something similar to that, just reducing clicks. But I did like tick manipulating, barb fishing, and doing cut eat. It's a very interesting method. It's definitely really draining on your wrist, but in that situation, you're actually utilizing what you're actually making. So you're cutting the fish, then you're eating the fish to maintain that 3 tick cycle. But a lot of the time with these fishing methods, it's just not worth banking it. So you're dropping stuff. It's horrible. I mean, you have a few methods that are great. Karambwans are amazing. You just bank the Karambwans, you're just full AFKing there. If you have a fishing barrel, it's great. But it's not that fast. That's not fun. And then there's also just the annoyance of like the fishing spot could move at any second. I think they could honestly do what they did with forestry. I mean, I have my own issues with forestry, but like what they did do right was adding these default timers to trees. So you can't just, the tree can't just be cut down within one log. It does have a timer. And it's going to stay that way, regardless of how many people are there. With fishing, it's like, okay, you click on a spot and then all of a sudden it's gone in a little bit. It's disappeared and it's like, oh shit, well, I was AFK for 2 minutes and I wasn't doing anything. That was dumb.
Yeah, it's shocking that it still has not been universally put across the board for fishing and woodcut or fishing and mining after forestry. Yeah.
And one of the ideas, I mean, we're going to touch on it with woodcutting, but you have places where you can 2-tick woodcut or 1.5 tick woodcutting on Fossil Island, or go to these certain areas where there really isn't a bank nearby. So it's either you chop the teak tree and drop every single log, or you go and run and waste a ton of time banking it. Just very not, I don't know, it's not intuitive. It's just not good. It doesn't feel good. And what they would, in my opinion, and this is reintroducing construction, is have a hotspot, have something like a stash unit where it's right next to the trees that are traditionally chopped. Priff trees, there's 2 teaks there that people will AFK or they'll 2-tick with the rabbits. Imagine right behind those 2 teak trees, even adjacent to where you'll be standing, is a little hotspot that can be a little log holder, and it can hold, 10,000 logs. And so you are just chopping all these logs, and then you can dump it into here. And then eventually, in order to extract the logs, maybe there's a little fee to it or something like that. But something where you're actually chopping, and I would want something like this to fishing. I've just moved on to woodcutting, but the same thing could be done with fishing, where you have a huge fishing net or something like that on the land next to the fishing spots, where you collect all the fish and you can just dump all the fish right here. And eventually you could pay a guy to send it all to your bank or something like that. Or maybe there is just a bank deposit box right there. Something where it feels like now you're actually gathering. You're gathering stuff. You're not just dropping it all. So,
yeah, I would love to see the kind of eradication of all of the dropping methods in the game. And I think even at the most base level, if it was a box where you could deposit it in and you had to later go back and pull it out and take it to your bank, even that sounds like the lamest version of what you're saying. But even if that was in the game, that would still be great for people like me who have to be super AFK during work. You put it all in the box during work, and then when you get home, you ferry it back. kind of similar to what we're seeing with like, clue scroll stacking or something where, you get 100 on the ground and then you ferry them back and do them all. But yeah, I mean, adding on to that, having a fee or some kind of way of some kind of charge for sending them back to your bank. That would open up so many options for someone like me with fishing. Cause there's certain methods where it's like the fishing itself is super AFK, but yeah, the taking it back to the bank or something, it just adds a whole, like I have to stand there looking at my phone for 10, 15 seconds while he's going to the bank and stuff. So I think that could be all fishing needs to take it into kind of a better place, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So moving on to fletching. One of the, it's just, I don't know. It's a strange skill. You make a bunch of bows. We do have a fletching minigame coming soon that hopefully will alleviate a lot of the complaints about fletching. I've been it's kind of blew my mind getting into Iron Man. I had no idea about broad arrows until I created an Iron Man, and people told me like, yep, that's kind of how you do fletching on an Iron Man. So I did that. I dumped so much money into fletching to get to 90 for the diary. And yeah, I mean, I do enjoy, fletching, and pretty much fletching and alchemy are the only things in the game. Those 0 time methods, as people call them, where you can just have a stack in your inventory and do it. And it is fun to try to find. I really enjoyed like fletching when on my main. I did a ton of dragon darts while I was, dragon bolts while I was at Sepulcher, and that made me feel like a super sweaty skiller doing those two things at once, and that is probably the part of fletching that I enjoy the most. And there is the bank standing side of it, which is nice. So it does kind of have those two. It has the very active way of doing it, and it has the very chill way of doing it. But I don't know, fletching is a weird kind of. It's just a weird skill. But I do like what they're adding to it. And personally, I think it's in a relatively good place. I'm not sure where else they could go from there. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've actually always resisted the broad arrow method. I even had like over 40 mil fletching on Sae Bae, and it was all just bank standing. I just make my maple longs or U longs or magic longs, whatever I was doing. And it was just, I didn't mind. Even $2.99, I just never wanted to spend the money. It's just, I was like,
I could not believe how expensive it was. I thought it was going to be
stupid. Yeah, I resist it. I know people will swear by it. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it.
I think it's like 8 GP to XP or something. So it's, oh man, I couldn't believe how expensive it was.
It's stupid. Yeah, it's people will say that. I mean, just this constant thing that's repeated. Like, obviously, it's good if you're in that like. I feel like it's honestly only good if you're in that like sort of 200 mil mindset where it's like, this is efficient. Yeah. And everything's about efficiency. And it's like not about like, saving some money for yourself so you can have some fun in the game, or, I don't know. I've never, I'm efficient in some regard, but that was never the thing I wanted to do. But
yeah. No,
I guess kudos to those that do it.
Yeah. I blew like 40 mil or something on it right after I got my enhanced. So I was that like big ball and iron with all this fresh CG money. And now that I'm I'm like crawling to 99 construction from 96, and I'm just regretting spending all that money. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. It almost, I feel like it leads people to regret. Like, why was I told to do this? Why is everyone telling me to do this?
Yeah.
This is dumb. Yeah. But, it is fast. And if you do take advantage of it, if you are multi-skilling with it, it is 0 time. So, well, to some extent, you do have to make obviously the initial fletchings. But yeah, I think with fletching, I'm excited about the mini game. They're coming out with the 2-tick knife. They're coming out with the spool of bowstrings. But this is something I would like to see. I need to have a conversation on the balancing of it. But there is actually a lunar spell string flax or spin flax spell. And it's every 5 ticks. So you get about 90k crafting XP an hour, 90k magic XP an hour if you do it perfectly. But you have to be at a bank. I mean, you have to, and it's only 5 at a time. It's like you're doing 5 at a time. You got to click 5 times, and it's really awkward timing. You can't like queue it up really. I mean, you can queue up the next one if you just click the spell again. It'll queue up after those 5 ticks have passed. But You know what I would love to see is we're already going to come out with that spool of bowstrings, which basically, if you don't know what that is, it's just one inventory slot of thousands of bowstrings. I think originally they were only going to have a cap of like 300, but now it's a cap of like some ridiculous number, maybe 10,000. I can't remember. Maybe it's less. Maybe it's a little bit more. Can't quite remember. But that is all going to be in one inventory, which means now you can pull out 27 unstrung bows and use your spool on it, and it'll all make it. But what I would love to see now is a spool of flax. So this might be OP, but at the same time, I think it would be very, very interesting. It would be meta changing in a lot of ways, and it would allow Iron Men to work through their hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I've even seen some accounts with millions of flax that are untouched.
Yeah,
because it's not worth doing. It's just it's awful. It's an awful training method. Just like the actual method of it. It's not even the XP, but like the method of it is just boring and horrible. And I was thinking, what if they allowed you to have a stack of flax that turns into a spool of bowstrings? So it is just just these two isolated inventory spots, and you have your astrals in your inventory. And now every 5 ticks, when you're running around the game, you are just completely transforming this flax into bowstrings as you run across the game, getting magic and some crafting XP. And then eventually you now have a huge spool of it that you can work with at your bank. I would love that. That would be meta changing 100%. But I think right now, working through your flax is such a dreadful thing to experience. And I think that would be an interesting way to go about it. There could be some balancing changes. I can concede that point potentially, but yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, whatever form it would take, just any kind of method that could maybe mass turn your flax into bowstring, or just much quicker than it currently is, or in a more interesting way even, I would be fully a fan of. And another thing from that Fletching mini game that I love where Jagex's head is at, and I just want to see more and more of it in the game. I've said a lot on this podcast. The worst form of skilling in the whole game, in my opinion, is the 14-14 methods, because it's just like for whatever reason, it is the absolute worst amount of downtime. It's like 10-15 seconds, and I don't know. It just feels like you can't look away. And I love that what they're doing, adding this to make it a 1 in 27 skill. I love that they're doing that, and they have just done that with our next skill, which is herblore. And I love that as well. What they've done with the mixology and adding the reagent pouch, so that you can make herblore feel like a more, I don't know. It just feels like, as dumb as this maybe sound to say, it's like a more RuneScape amount of downtime, like that 30, 45 seconds amount of downtime, that's kind of what you expect from RuneScape. And I love that. And so I guess kind of transitioning into herblore, we have mixology, which I'm a fan of the rewards, I'll say. And I'm a fan of the concept. I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay of it. I did quite a bit of it, and I got my rewards, and I will probably continue to go back, because it is such a necessary thing, it feels like, for an Iron Man to finally have a use for all of your old herbs that you were never going to make into potions. And I do love that they put something like that in the game. The actual nitty gritty of the mechanics of it, I think there maybe is some room for improvement there. I think something I've always wanted to see from herblore is very similar to what you were saying with cooking, is some kind of mini game to mass make your potions in some way that's interesting. I always imagine just this giant vat that has like 3 stories, and you have to do some agility or something to work your way. You put your stuff in at the top, and then you got to go through all this obstacles or some kind of thing to get down to the bottom where your full inventory of potions is processed, or even more than that. I would love to see a way to have a more active method, but as it stands with potions and mixology, kind of once again being the AFK and the active methods, I think that there is some good stuff in for herblore. I wish mixology put out a little more XP, but I do love what it stands for. Where are you at with herblore?
Yeah, herblore I think is in a very healthy spot right now. I don't know if you've ever used the reagent pouch
Yeah.
to do herblore.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, because that eliminates the 14 by 14. I mean, now you're doing a 26 by 1. It's slightly more complicated than just pouring out the inventory. I mean, you do have to have a tiny bit of brain power going on to recognize what you're doing. The little click pattern. It's like 3 clicks. But it's really not. I'm actually doing it right now on my end, making some super restores. But it's, I think mixology in my head is perfectly balanced. And genuinely, I actually kind of enjoy it. But I think it only is enjoyable. I mean, yeah, it does suck having lower XP, but it has to be that way because of the balancing of it. If it was any higher, it would cause some issues. And I actually do enjoy the gameplay. I think it is quite snappy. I think there's a few hiccups, like you had mentioned, where, okay, why are the meters showing they're all the way full? And then I click it, and then it wasn't, like the little V one on the far end. It's like that thing will debate you every time. It'll show that it's full and you'll run, and then, oh, the whole potion's fucked up, and you got to do the whole thing super slow the whole time to get it out. It's just like, what is happening here? So there's a little bit of like graphical issues, I think, going on. But one of the things I actually love is like every level you gain slightly speeds up the stations. So it's like every level, it almost feels like it's giving you a slight bit more XP. And I love the rewards. I love the goggles. I love the amulet. And I don't even think there needs to necessarily be a sort of mass produce potions. I think we already have it quite good, just kind of AFKing a full inventory of them. And I guess the only other thing was, the degrime spell. That was the thing I was going to mention. Was on the Archaea spell, there's a degrime spell, and it's horribly balanced. It's like, it reminds me of the campfires where it's like you're getting like a third of the XP. I think you only get half the XP, and there's a fucking cooldown to it, and there's a rune cost to it. You're only getting half the XP cleaning the herbs. You got to wait anyway, and there's a cost to it. And I'm like, okay, eliminate the delay, give you full XP, and it's fixed. So you could repeatedly just pull out your full inventory of herbs, insta-click the spell, they're all clean, you all get full XP. You had to use the rune cost for it, dump it, and it would just be the super, super, super fast system of cleaning them. Right now, I mean, I don't even deal with it because I clean all my herbs when I'm doing my herb runs. I just clean them. I don't deal with it. And I always am constantly clearing out the grimy herbs I put in my bank. But that degrime spell has so much potential. And for some reason, they thought it was too broken or something because of like some elitist mindset that some people probably hold. And they're like, oh, we don't want to upset them. Upset them. This is essential. Like, what the hell is going on? You could already clean up all your herbs with a cost. You don't get any XP, but like, just make the degrime spell good. What is going on here? And if it needs to be balanced, if you really think that's too OP, increase the rune cost to it then, I don't even think that needs to happen, but if that really is the case, just increase the amount of runes it takes to cast a spell. But yeah, get rid of the delay and make it full XP. Yeah, no,
I'm always a manual cleaner as well. For some reason, I don't know why. Maybe it is the rune costs and the reduced XP, but I've also for some reason
it's the reduced XP. But yeah.
I've always enjoyed cleaning them manually. Maybe it's just because I've worked so hard to get enough herbs to get a level that feels rewarding to do them all. But I think I remember back on my main, I did a little bit of degriming because it was actually profitable, which I found very surprising. But it's like it's a like weirdly. It's just a weird profitable. It was like the only conceivable profitable herblore method back when I was training my main, and I was like desperate for money, and then I finally said fuck it and just dumped all my money into maxing out herblore because that's what you do on a main. But yeah, you're kind of bringing me back into mixology. I got a little jaded towards it. I had a week off of work where I was really sick, and I just pounded mixology the whole time. Got like all the items I wanted from it. But you're probably right. There's probably a part of me that is being unfair towards the XP rates. I think it's fair to say that if it was an absolute best in slot meta for potion or for herblore XP, that would be a problem. But it's just.
And I'm with you there where it just does feel slow. It's like, you could just be making potions and getting 350k XP an hour, and now you're sitting here and getting 80. It's like, oh God, this is going to take so much longer.
Yeah, that disparity, it's killer. So yeah, that's herblore. So moving into hunter. Hunter is a very interesting skill, and I feel like we would have had so much to say about it. And then they added in hunter rumors, and it breathed so much life into hunter, and made even the dumbest of hunter training methods, interesting in their own way. And I mean, the hunter rumor system is a godsend for hunter. It's so great. And I agree with you, kind of what you're talking about with crafting. I would love to see that style of thing for a lot of different skills in this game. I guess it's probably obvious, but I was a big fan of like the artisan skill in general for that exact reason. But I think the idea of taking that idea and applying it to different skills in its own unique, like making it unique to that skill is such a cool idea. Like making it rumors for hunter, or making it that craft and delivery thing for crafting. And you could make it unique for all these different skills, and it would be really cool. But as far as what could be added to hunter, I think I don't know a lot of RS3, but I think this is something that isn't in RS3, but I would love to see some kind of like big game hunting, like some kind of, I don't know, just something that takes a long time to get, that has a big XP drop and a chance for some really good unique item from it. It's kind of, I feel like something we're missing from hunter, but I can't really say I have a specific on what that would be like, but it would be cool to take it up to the next level from that. What are your thoughts on hunter?
Yeah, no, I love hunter. The hunter rumors completely changed. I mean, hunter used to be like my least favorite skill.
Yeah.
It was just awful. I didn't like catching chins, and I didn't like doing anything else. I just, once birdhouses were released way back, that was when I was like, okay, I can do hunter. Like I can stand this now. And herbivore helped. But yeah, the rumors are just such a phenomenal update. I do think there are just some hiccups here and there, like falconry. I don't actually know if you knew this. Do you ever do the like Hellcat spice gathering stuff?
Oh yeah, how they just removed the delay from that?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Glorious.
You're saying they could do that with falcons? That would be beautiful.
Yeah, they need to do that with falconry. The falconry, when you throw a falcon, I mean, I know the meta. I mean, people will be like, "Oh, well, you just stand really, really close to it." Okay, what are we doing here? Why is that the way you do it? Where you're one tile away from the kebbit and you just chuck it at it, just right there, and that's the most efficient way. Honestly, we should be able to throw our falcon from wherever the hell we go. The falcon goes super fast, and you can run immediately to where it's going to land. And I think that'd be great. So just fix falconry. Some other annoyances as well. I think salamanders could. Salamanders for the most part are pretty good. I love the orange salamanders in the desert when you go near Toa, because they're all so close to each other. It's really good. I don't even do that task anymore. But on the topic, it's not about rumors, but hunter in general. I think it would be nice if some of the wildy diaries could give you a chance at a double Chinchompa catch.
Oh,
so if you just have the wildy diary, maybe there's a 25% chance you're getting, or wildy elite, for example. Get a 25% chance of an extra chin, something like that. Because black chins actually do have quite a bit of use if you do take advantage of them in like an endgame Iron Man, or just endgame in general main account. It'd be kind of cool if there are some perks for the wilderness out there.
Yeah, the only complaint I've ever had about rumors is it prevents you sometimes from being as autistic as you want to be with the game, because there is definitely that part of me that wants to just be like, well, I need herbs, so I'm going to do herbivore to 99. And it's like, but I got to do rumors. And I don't know, maybe that's the game saving me from myself and being like, no, just do this fun way where you can switch things up. I don't know. But I definitely on my main, it was like, well, I got to do black chins to 99 because that is the most profitable. But that's a really cool idea of adding the extra drops in.
I think what they could do actually is just do something like the Slayer rumor master and be like, hey, can you extend my herblore?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Whenever you get the task, you can just get it massively extended. People wouldn't do it because ultimately it would just end up being worse XP overall and you wouldn't get as many sacks. Maybe they could rebalance it that way where like the sack is now, I don't know, maybe just more XP when you get it. It would be the same sack. So maybe you're getting fewer rewards in the sack and you're getting less chance of getting the Quetzin pet, but you are now going to get a massive drop at the end of the herbivore task or I don't know, something like that. But yeah. I don't even think that's necessary because you could just go do herbivore freely anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, once you green log rumors, which is not that long of a thing to do, then you could choose to keep doing them or focus on whichever one of those you want to do in 99. So yeah, I mean, rumors, as God said, it's a beautiful thing. And I hope they take that and apply that to other areas of the game.
Yeah, they nailed it.
All right. Our next skill is mining, which is something that I think has been getting a lot of love. And I mean, in the perspective of the past few years, that star mining thing was great. And they've really, they've started packing a lot of content into mining. I've found myself like struggling to decide which way I want to train my mining. I did a lot of the bone shard mining. I thought that was great. And prayer is kind of a hard skill to come by sometimes on an iron. And they've added this new mining with Yama, and then obviously the motherlode mine. I mean, there's a lot of different options for mining. They're all, they all kind of come down to the same thing of you hit something with a rock and you get something from it. But for whatever reason, like I was saying earlier, I find mining to be super rewarding and fun and chill in a way that I don't find fishing to be. But so as surprising as it might be to say, I find mining to be like good as is. But where do you see mining?
Yeah, mining's very well balanced, it seems, like just when you take an overlook, but not really, like in theory it's balanced, but I think in practicality it's just like people are upset by the fact that, it can be stated that mining is 130K an hour at max, but nobody wants to actually go to the quarry and mine there for more than 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you have all these other methods that people just, they're like, okay, well, this is what I'll settle with. There's multiple avenues. I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. I mean, I am known for advocating for an item called a gnome cube. Not my original idea. It was actually taken from the skill pitch mastery way back before sailing was originally chosen. And it was just going to be a reward from that skill. And basically what it does is it makes it so instead of knife logging or herb tarring, it would just be a one-click little cube that you just click. And it can't be broken. It can't be turned into a mahogany shaft all of a sudden, or it can't be turned into the guam tar. So you can't mess it up. So it's a way to learn how to tick manipulate, and it reduces a click. So it's actually everything becomes simpler and less strain on your wrist. So I'm not claiming that this would fix everything, but it's a good route to go down because it doesn't eliminate any of the fun or the flow of these methods. Doesn't get rid of any of the rhythm either, but it just reduces some of the strain that can be put on your wrist, long hours. So there's two different camps. One of them's the tick manipulation camp, and then one of them just like all the other methods that people enjoy. And with tick manipulation in general, we gotta reduce wrist strain. And I think introducing something like that. I mean, I don't know if you saw Jim's Wet Cloth. It's a new item where you can mine at the Yama shale.
Yeah, that felt like their first like kind of stab at or their prototype of the gnome cube.
Exactly, yeah. So it's not perfect. I think they didn't even capture the exact idea because you still have to like click on the floor and then click on the rock every single cycle, which is just unnecessary. You should just be able to click it or click the wet rag and then click the rock, and your movement should have already counted as you clicking on the ground, But no, there's some weird stuff going on there, but they are testing it out, and everything I've seen on Reddit universally is like, this is great. We got to add this beyond this. So, because a lot of the time, I mean, there's such a vast amount of people that don't even understand tick manipulation. It's just it's so daunting to even get into. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't understand the cycle. I don't even understand what's going on. And then on top of that, you can fuck it up so easily. And then you got to go bank and grab another log or whatever. And then on top of that, now you have to drop all your resources and try to squeeze that in every single few clicks. So it's just horrible, and they need to fix that. And but now I want to go on to the other camp, which is just the other mining methods. So we got Motherlode Mine. You do have Volcano nowadays. You got Blast Mine. You got Volcanic Mine. You got Star Mining, obviously. One of the things I had proposed, this is a little bit more of an overhaul, something that Jack would have to look into, but I always love the idea of, kind of picking and choosing what your favorite mining method is. And then what would happen is the longer you stick it out there, the more and more enjoyable that mining place becomes. So I want to bring up the example of Motherlode Mine. Let's just say you naturally enjoy Motherlode Mine for whatever reason. It's comfortable. You don't want to really learn any other thing. And what could happen is you have these golden nuggets that you can spend on, getting the upstairs and then getting the new little deposit thing upstairs as well. So you're kind of like pimping out the place as you go along, the more nuggets you get. But what if it even went beyond that? So now you got 500 nuggets, or now you got 1,000 nuggets. And there's a new unlock where once you have the 1,000 nuggets, there's an unlock to now just get a mining boost across the whole place. And now your dude is 20% more efficient. Something like that. Like something where it's just a complete buff, but it's the fact that you've stuck it out here and you enjoy this place. The more you are here, the more advanced you're going to become. So, and with, obviously spending your points there. So I like this kind of system, and it would be the same thing with Blast Mine, where you go to Blast Mine, you've done it enough. You now have a point system, you have a little shop, and there you could say, I want to do the extractions 40% faster. And there's an unlock for that. If you spend your points now, you're there. And when you're excavating the little mining site to put your dynamite in, that whole thing has been sped up. So it's actually making the content less AFK in a way, but at the same time, you're getting more XP. So there's like these cool little unlocks that the longer you stick it out there, the more benefit you'll get long term. I've always kind of enjoyed that idea because I do feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's cool to be rewarded long term for sticking it out in places with skilling, like little mini games like that. So that's what I would love to see personally. I think star mining's in a good spot. I think the XP rates are pretty balanced. And yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what you're describing that not very many people use is what they do with Camdozel, where it's this area and you can unlock. I think at Camdozel you actually can like make things. You can make things faster or more XP and stuff. And I do love that idea. I would love to see a Camdozel style thing that's a much more higher level where you're slowly building up this area, and it could be a multi-skilling area. You're getting different, whatever deposits or from whatever you're doing there and building it up. I've always thought Camdozel was a really cool area in the way they've done it, and it would be cool to see an implementation of that was more focused on higher levels or even just had a higher ceiling of what you could buy there. And I love what they've done with Motherlode Mine. And once again, I've been so focused on like different methods. Like the Bone Shard was what I did to 92 because I was so focused on wanting to get my prayer up. I haven't spent as much time at Motherlode Mine as I did on my main, but I want to spend a lot of time there because I love that concept as well of just progressively making it even better for for yourself.
It's really cool. They tried, I think there was an element of them trying that with Giant's Foundry. We'll get to smithing soon, but with the little molds and stuff like, you could spend points to get better molds, but it's like, this is the worst implementation. The whole mold setup in the first place is so useless. Setting it up, it's like, you're always just going to choose the best thing. And RuneLite just solves it for you. So the whole thing's bizarre, but I think they tried and they failed. Yeah,
I would agree. Okay, so moving on down to one of the most interesting skills in the game. I've met a few people who's its favorite skill, and I find it a very interesting skill and so useful in an Iron Man, which is rune crafting. Obviously a few years ago we had this huge expansion of Guardians of the Rift, which made a lot of people declare rune crafting a decent skill at best. And I loved Guardians of Rift when it came out. I did a whole ton of it. But people who have listened to this podcast for a while know that I am a big stan of Day Alt ZMI. It works really well for me because it's something that I can AFK work and then just release when I get home. It's like I've been edging all day with the Day Alt, and then I can just go ham at it when I get home. And so I've always been a big fan of that for rune crafting. And there's, once again, we have this wide variance of options available with rune crafting. I think from that perspective, it's in a good spot. I would like to see, as small as it is, the biggest thing I would like to see from rune crafting is actually at Day Alt. I would like them to be just honestly closer together. And that's just because I always do it on mobile, and I hate that you can never have all three of them on your screen at the same time. That little quality of life and an actual, this really shows that I play with my phone in my pocket, some kind of sound effect when you're done mining and it moves to another one. Very, very minor tweaks to Day Alt, but I feel like one of the biggest Day Alt defenders, even though it's like people consider it objectively not like meta for XP with rune crafting, but I've always been a big defender of it. And yeah, I mean, Guardians,
you know what I think?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing on the Day Alt. What if, this is something I was just thinking as you're saying that, because it has been a minute since I've mined Day Alt. I mined a lot of it on my previous Iron. What if they had a diary, maybe it was Mauritania Elite, maybe it's even hard or something like that. Maybe it's Elite. And what it allows is actually to have two of them active at one time, local to your player. So now every single minute, whenever it changes, there's actually a 50-50 chance of your one not even depleting. And because there's always going to be two active. So there's only one ever inactive. So ultimately you're there and you can actually just AFK for much longer. There still is, the potential of it only lasting for a minute, but now you could potentially get the RNG lottery and go 7 minutes and it still hasn't moved because it just keeps flipping from the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now with that mobile change, you can actually, your phone won't log you out after 5 minutes now, which is beautiful.
Did that happen on iPhones even?
So if you have the RuneScape app open, you can go up to 25 minutes, but it still has the bullshit where if you switch to another app, it'll log you out in like 10 seconds. But they said in the blog that's like an iPhone thing. There's nothing they can do about it, which is really annoying. And I remembered the other thing about Day Alt that I would like them to change is it would be nice if the timer didn't start until at least one person started mining it, because it's on an independent timer right now. So if you do kind of space out, or once again, it's some phones in my pocket, I pull it out and I see it's moved on. I go to the next one and it like switches like right when I get there, even though there's nobody else around. It's just a weird, like it doesn't. I can't think of any other mining or really anything else in the game that kind of works like that. It would make sense for it to start that timer once you start. But
you're right. That was very annoying. You look away and you're like, do I just stay here? Like, do I even go for it? Like, has it already been another minute? There's some issues with that. Actually, we could brainstorm some way better ideas than what they've implemented there. And it could just all be local. I mean, it could just be a local thing where it's not a universal switching. I mean, it's just everybody has their own shiny thing. So everyone's on a different one. So then you're not like being ragged by somebody if, you were saying, the first person to mine, because then you get some ragging and you feel like obligated to go on your own private world. But if it was just local, and even if they just did something as simple as just doubling the timer, I don't think anybody would be upset with a 2-minute timer and having it local. So as soon as you get there, that's when the 2 minutes starts. I mean, that's what we've been doing across the game universally with so many things, and it's so much better. Everybody loves it.
Yeah, and it would be cool. I mean, I would like to see Day Alt in a place where, like I said, people say, oh, it's objectively worse XP, blah, blah, blah. I would like to see it at a point where it is just behind, if not equal with whatever other rune crafting methods, so it's like it's an optional, because, Dale is a different style of rune crafting. It's very, very AFK. And then you take that essence and you do something much more active with it, where something like Guardians of the Rift is this consistent kind of, medium intensity. So it's a whole different style. So I don't think it needs to be objectively worse.
I disagree. I think where it's at is fine. I mean, they could, maybe do like a 10% increase or something, but the benefit of it over traditional is you're spending so much more time AFKing than actual rune crafting. But if you were, you're contrasting it with Guardians of the Rift, but if you contrast it just with normal traditional rune crafting with pure essence, the whole time you're rune crafting, 100% of your time is there. Whereas a big chunk of your time doing day alt is actually just mining the day alt. And the other thing that could be an issue is like, I could see you trying to like narrow that gap. But if you did, then like 1.5 ticking day alt becomes actually like really good and actually better than just traditionally using pure essence. So I think there is this balance because there is the potential to tick manipulate it.
Yeah. Well, and maybe to clarify my point a little more, and I would not want to see them turn up, like, if you think about it like dials, I don't want to see the dial of XP or anything turned up. I'm just saying the dial of AFK, kind of with just the quality of life that we're talking about.
Sure.
If that dial was turned up a little bit more, it would just be perfect for me.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with that then.
So as far as, but the wider rune crafting skill, what do you think?
Well, we got to get rid of degradation in pouches.
Oh, yes, please.
Beyond silly.
Yes.
We also need to be able to guarantee getting an abyssal needle. I mean, I've never struggled with it personally, but I know a friend that went 2,100 or something loots without his needle. So it's an untradeable. Like, why is this not like the Vorkath head where you can just guarantee it? Give us that? Yeah.
Sorry, just to interrupt real quick. Would it be as simple as just allowing, if you have a redwood lantern, to allow that effect outside of Guardians of the Rift? Would that be the fix for that? For the degradation, I mean?
I mean, that would be enough. It's so silly that those lanterns can't be used outside.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Yeah, they could. I mean, I'm at the point where you just get rid of it entirely. I mean, imagine just every single, 15 minutes of mining, you had to go like contact your pickaxe provider and just repair it or something. It's just so, I mean, this has been in the game and maybe it's like old school, but like it really is not adding anything great to the game. It's just not.
Well, and you get that constant reminder of how slow NPC contact is too when you do want to fix it.
Yeah. And maybe it could just be the colossal pouch never degrades no matter what. And then the redwood log would have a different effect. So you could change that around, but maybe the other pouches do degrade. And then as soon as you get the colossal, never degrades ever again. The other thing I wish the scaling of the colossal pouch is a little bit different because it goes from 16. I think like right now, my colossal pouch only holds 16. I'm 74 rune crafting. I think it'll bump up to, I don't even know. I don't know what it bumps up to at 75, but then at 85, I think it gets the full 40.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like every level, it should just give you like one more or something like that. So like every level feels a little bit more, rewarding, I guess. And rune crafting, I mean, this is beefy. I mean, I could go into so much detail with it. I was really not a fan of Scar Essence Mine. I thought that was a big mistake. And I thought the way to actually fix rune crafting was to just truly go in, dig into the skill and go in and first of all, like rebalance how the multiple runes work. I think elemental runes across the board should be way higher than, I think you get like 4 fire runes at 99. Like what is that? Like literally just make it so all elemental runes are, I mean, what they've done with the Scar Essence Mine is they've categorized runes. There's 4 different categories of runes. There's like the twisted extracts and whatever other extracts there are. And there's like the elemental extracts. I can't even remember what they're all called, but the runes have like different tiers. And I think what would be a much more simple way to go about rune crafting is just saying like, okay, at this level, this type of runes now gets multiplied. So elemental runes across the board, air through fire. Now at 99, you can craft like 20x of them. And they could even do it like decimals where at no point can you craft double bloods, but you can craft double blood or double deaths at 99. But what if there actually was, at 77 you can craft bloods, and then at level 78 now you can craft 1.05 bloods, and at level 79 1.1 bloods, whatever would make sense. And I think that was actually just too high. Maybe it was like 0.4, go up by like 0.4 or something where like now you're having a chance of crafting an additional rune, just like the outfit works. Like the outfit gives that 60% buff. You're not always getting the same amount in every single craft, but you're getting that potential for it. And I think that would be a much healthier way to go about like the multiple runes. And then just rebalancing that entirely. I mean, I could go on to like spreadsheets and everything about how you would actually rebalance this. But ultimately, what I'd love to see is a full rebalance of the runes given from traditional rune crafting, maybe even adding some different shortcuts to different altars. I know the nature altar got a nice little shortcut to it, so now it's just like super good to craft natures with the diary cape. And I love what they did with the removing the delay from the altars. I mean, Guardians of the Rift was just such a dub update. It was so amazing. Mm-hmm. But I'd love it if just traditional rune crafting was just given some love, and you actually could craft a healthy amount of runes doing it. So yeah, I could go on so many more tangents about the cosmic underworld idea I had and everything else, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, I do think I would agree that I think the best thing for rune crafting is to make classic rune crafting rewarding in a way that it doesn't feel like it is. For me, like back in the day, like Abyssal rune crafting is maybe one of the most nostalgic things in this game for me. That was one of my favorite things back in like RS2. And I did a lot of it on my main back on old school. I did a lot of it on my main, and it just didn't feel as rewarding when there were these other things just staring me in the face that were better. And I would agree that like that, we had those 3 tiers, and that second one needs some tweaks. And I think this one, more than any other skill, I could see it being just that answer, like to the nth degree, just a full, like just really looking at it from the ground up and seeing, okay, we know now how these runes are being used. We know how many of these like people use a fucking shit ton of runes, and how can we like make that in a way that's rewarding and feels good for both types of accounts and stuff. I could not believe when I was on my early iron and I was doing so much lunar stuff, how getting astral runes was the most frustrating thing I've ever, like, I couldn't believe there was only one spot I could buy them and it was just always empty. And then making them myself was, very slow, but I don't know. Yeah, I could see just making rune crafting, just tweaking, moving the numbers around. I'm fully on board with that.
Yeah, it needs to be tweaked. You just need to feel like you're actually gathering runes. Like, why isn't that the best way to get your runes? Why is it shopping? I mean, they added the Scar Essence, which was again a big mistake in my head, because now how you train rune crafting is just find the fastest way to do it, or the most, I guess for a lot of people, just like the least amount of headache, which is mostly just Guardians of the Rift, or you get rewards and pet chance and everything else. But before Scar Essence, I mean, if you wanted your cosmic runes on an iron, you got to go to the cosmic altar, like go craft your cosmics. And they could have done a great change of allowing way more cosmics to be crafted per hour just naturally, like with the skill itself. And Wrath runes now, you can just literally spend 15 minutes and get a lifetime amount of Wrath runes on your Iron Man account, just with the Scar Essence stuff. It's just ridiculous how that happened. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. And if people were so into Shopscape, like if people really loved Shopscape, because I was honestly saying like, let's fix rune crafting. And for an Iron Man, this is, years back, I probably not as stern on this point, but like I wanted Shopscape to be removed ultimately, but I wanted it to be removed with the addition of truly being able to get massive amounts of runes through rune crafting. So the skill feels like you're actually training it for a purpose. It's not just total misery doing it. And then I even back then I was like, but if the community wanted Shopscape, I'm at the point where just have a fucking buy X, have an infinite stock. They've already done this with Varlamore, where there's infinite stocks of things. And if everybody is just agreeing on having Shopscape, then just say buy X. Like, why are we having to go through the annoyances of hopping worlds repeatedly, competing with other people, why not just rip the Band-Aid off and just say, go to the shop one singular time, buy X. You buy all that amount of runes, boom, there you go. People would say, oh, that's really broken for Iron Man. Yeah, and I agree. That's why I would prefer the other route, which is just eliminating Shopscape entirely and fixing the core skills. But, if it's like, I prefer either option, but we went down this weird middle ground with Scar Essence, and it's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's really Shopscape with a couple extra steps. I was very surprised when I made my Iron Man. Probably the biggest surprise of an Iron Man is that I wasn't using the runes that I was crafting. That wasn't sufficient for me unless I wanted to really, really focus on rune crafting. I still had to buy runes to supplement it. And that was just I just didn't know that was part of the game. I didn't know about Shopscape or anything before I created an Iron. And yeah, I think it would feel better in general just to go out, craft the runes, get enough runes that it feels like, okay, I'm good. Like I did my rune crafting. I'm going to go use these runes and it feels good. And yeah, I think that would be a healthier place for it to be.
Yeah. I mean, you could even reduce, I know they're doing it with the summer sweep up, reducing a lot of rune drops from PVM sources, but really giving way more runes to the actual skill, reducing runes from PVM, making it so rune crafting is actually a very profitable skill for mains and really useful on irons. And I mean, look at the cache of runes you get from Toa. Like, that's a cool little drop where you just get a shit ton of runes. Imagine that was something you actually got very rarely from rune crafting. So you're at the altar, you craft your runes, boom, in your inventory, you just got a cache of runes just magically. And just like, oh my God, that'd be cool. I mean, it doesn't have to be a cache of runes, but something where it's like, there's some element of RNG where you just get more runes from actual training rune crafting, Yeah. Anyway, there's so much more to talk about. And that last idea was just kind of spitballing, but but that's kind of my overall thoughts.
Yeah. Rune crafting just needs a lot of numbers moved around. Okay, so moving on, I do want to ask real quick. I'm going to skip over Slayer because I see that as much more combat focused. But as a little fun yes or no question that always comes up in RuneScape: is Slayer skilling? Yes or no?
Oh man, I don't think so personally, but I could see it go both ways.
Yeah.
I love Slayer though. Slayer's S tier skill. Love it.
Oh yeah. Love Slayer. You got reminder, everyone can check out our all about Slayer that we talked for like 4 hours about Slayer. Best skill in the game. Moving on to not the best skill in the game, we have smithing. And I feel like smithing is a classic RuneScape skill with some classic training methods. I know as well as you, I do love Blast Furnace. I know a lot of people hate it, but I find it very satisfying to do. But it is impossible to talk about smithing without this giant elephant in the room that is Giant's Foundry. It, to me, and I want to say you as well, it feels like it's something that is close to being really great and could be something really great. It just needs some pretty significant tweaks. For me, I think the biggest tweak I would like to see is for your character to just automatically stop the action they're doing if it's at the point where it needs to be stopped, so you don't get punished if you look away, or if you're just you falter for a second. And I know I really like that they added that new tweak recently where you're able to regain that loss later on in that particular sword. I thought that was a really cool, and maybe I haven't actually gone back since they did that, so maybe that is enough to alleviate that problem. But Giant's Foundry still has some significant issues, and I know you have thoughts on that. But Giant's Foundry and smithing in general, where's your head at?
Yeah, smithing. I mean, XP rates need to be drastically rebalanced. I mean, just how extreme Giant's Foundry is in relation to how much XP you get per bar rather than at an anvil. It's like 12x. It's ridiculous. Like if you just do traditional anvil smithing, you're just trolling. I mean, you're on an Iron Man, especially, you're just completely trolling. You could spend 14 mithril bars and 14 addy bars to get a total of, I don't fucking even know, like 1,000 XP at an anvil with those, making basic armor. Or you go to Giant's Foundry and get 16,000 or something ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
It's just out of control, skewed. So what I think they should honestly do is just massively increase the amount of XP you can get just making normal things at an anvil. I think that would be necessary. I don't even think doubling it would do it. You'd have to like fucking quadruple potentially. You could also just come out with like smithing contracts, kind of, you know, similar to the rumor system, where now you got a guy telling you, hey, make these Addy plates, and then you get that bulk XP at the end. So it's almost like a Giant's Foundry in a more traditional way. So it's just a separate activity that can be added, way more old school. It's traditional, add an anvil, pounding that, you know, hammer. It's more AFK, and then you just make whatever armor you needed to do, turn it in, get a big XP clump. On top of that, we need silversmithing gauntlets. That's 100% needs to happen ASAP. They need to be, you know, just slightly below what goldsmithing gauntlets would give. I also want to see an ice glove and a goldsmithing gauntlet or a silversmithing gauntlet one in each hand. So you don't have to be 99 to start taking advantage of that luxury. I think it's absolutely silly how the skill becomes genuinely so much more bearable after 99. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Let's make it so it's fun doing before 99. The coal bag, I wish held 36 before 99 and then held 54 at 99. I think right now it's 27 and then 36 is what it ends up being. I would love it if it just already held an additional amount before 99, and then at 99 it holds double the coal. So you can have 2 full inventories of coal in there. And yeah, blast furnace XP needs to be slightly changed so the ore gives a little bit more XP as well. I think that's essential. And those obviously are just numbers we could talk about. But Giant's Foundry specifically, one of the things that would reduce so much headache is, I do like your idea of insta stopping. I think that could actually be a purchase with Giant's Foundry points. So maybe 5,000 points, and now you've completely stopped. Your dude will stop, so you can't fuck the sword up.
Yeah, and it makes sense from like oh, sorry, I was just gonna say it makes sense from like you've been working here long enough. You've learned that, so I could see that like thematically making sense. Like, okay, you've purchased this upgrade, and yeah, you know how to fucking stop when your thing is grinding for too long and it's too hot. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's annoying about Giant's Foundry is when you start using the outfit, you actually start having a worse time because there's a chance of the sword getting a little bit more polished or getting a little bit more advanced on the progress bar when you're wearing those pieces of a smith's tunic or of a smith's outfit. The tunic's just the top. And what they need to do is just have a flat increase to that. So there's not a chance of every hammered hitting. It has a little bit of an increase, because if you're using the plugin for it, it'll tell you how many more actions you need to do. And that can just randomly change at the very last action. And then you fucked up your sword because it just went beyond it or something, you know, without you being able to recognize it. And so I want it to be much more static so you can fully 100% anticipate what's about to happen. And then I want that bar to never decrease at all. I don't want this passive cooling.
Amen.
The passive cooling ruins the entire minigame. It just does.
Yeah.
Because you can never fully predict what's about to happen. And if they were to introduce this with the getting rid of the passive cooling, what it would allow is the plugin to fully tell you exactly what you want. And that's what every player wants. The player wants to see that it's now going to take 15 actions at the waterfall. Exactly. And it could even have, the plugin could even be so good that it'll literally mark the intervals on the meter itself of what each action will end up being on. You know what I mean? Because right now you're just kind of guessing, like, hopefully it's going to be this. And then the plugin kind of glitches because it's like, it doesn't know what you're doing. So yeah, I just want the cooling to just be completely removed. The passive cooling's annoying. Make it so everything's very much anticipated. You know, you could just hear it. You know, if you have something else on your second monitor, you can just hear the clink, 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 and you just know, okay, I looked at RuneLight, it said I have 15 actions. You're kind of like almost low-key counting in your head the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know that it's not going to mess anything up. And then if you are going to pay more attention, you can get the extra little boost or whatever. But yeah, there's just so many annoyances with that place. And I guess the last thing I would love to see is if on the very tick you've arrived at the stations, it already starts doing the actions. So right now you have to go there, and then you have to have already stood there for a tile or a tick for stuff to start actually functioning. I think it would be way better if like it was much more snappy. So it's like as soon as you've landed, it's already working it. Like if you're running over to the hammer place, you can get there one tick late, but the hammer has already landed and it seems like you were already there because you were, but you have to wait one more tick. So now you have to wait the full 4 ticks for the next cycle. And I just think it should be snappier where like as soon as you've gotten there, you still get the action. And for every station.
Yeah, Giants Foundry's
my take on that.
Giants Foundry is so weird because it feels like it's a very recent minigame, but it feels like a carryover from like RS2 because of how janky a lot of the stuff feels. It just doesn't feel clean and like, snappy, like you keep saying. I think, I would agree with all of that. Oh my God, not having it tick down, not having those times where the trip hammer is so slow and you're like, oh, is it gonna cool too far?
Horrible experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
That needs the passive cooling needs to be fully eliminated. Yes. It's just so bad.
And the only
one last thing was the molds. What are we doing there? That needs to be completely skipped over. Like this is just so stupid. And it's so glitchy. Oh my God, it's so glitchy. It's like if you use the plugin for it, it's like you'll click on all 3 of the things and it's like it's just not even registering what you're clicking.
The only thing that I could see making the molds like actually interesting is if maybe the molds gave you different results as far as like, oh, if you use these type of mold, like heavy molds will give more XP, but medium molds will give more GP or something, like I could see that that's the only avenue. Okay, yeah. I could see it being like, yeah, maybe there's a little decision space here. And it's not just the plugin telling you what to do. And then, the only other thing I want to see from Giants Foundry is to take those bars at the top and put them like over your character's head or something so that you're not just...
Yeah, holy fuck. That thing is so massive. That interface on fixed. I play on fixed and it's a third of the screen.
Yeah.
It's a third. It's a 33% of the screen's taken up by this.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't even feel like you're playing RuneScape anymore. You're like looking at these bars moving around and you forget that there's like a character and stuff on your screen. It's a weird mini game that you also kind of like you were saying, you also feel like you have to do it. Like you feel like you're trolling if you don't go there. So that's, I think, why a lot of people are so passionate about why they need to fix it.
Yep. And hey, hear me out, because if you were to get rid of the passive cooling, you could have a plugin that straight up will predict everything you're about to do as long as you execute properly. And what they could do is just have a number above the station, because once you've reduced that passive cooling and once you've completely made static the boost that the outfit gives you, so it's not a chance of getting a little boosted thing, what it would have is just a number over the station. So as soon as you grab your sword, I mean, I think nowadays, because of the special giving you the repair of your sword if you break it, you just instant go to the hammer. I think that's what people do now is the meta. You don't even go to the water fountain initially. So you just go to the hammer and it would just have a number. It would just say, you're going to hit this 9 times or 8 times. And then it's going to say, there's going to be a 1 over on the little lava pool. And so it's just like, you're going to know there's going to be literally a number above the station. You can completely get rid of the annoying, like, display of the little UI, and you would just have these numbers above the stations. You click here, it's going to do this. Click over here, it's going to do one of these actions. If you mess up, obviously it's going to have to change the numbers on RuneLight's end. But that would be such a more pleasant experience. It'd be so much less cluttered. You know exactly what's about to happen. You can just listen to the sounds. It would just be a much more pleasant experience. Way better.
Yeah, and then that cherry on top of your actions automatically stopping so that you can go in and you could be super chill and efficient if you wanted to be and not get super punished, but you can also be tick perfect and get the most out of it. I mean, I mean, so much improved. And yeah, I would also agree though that I think smithing in general, they need to look at things either, if it's nerfing Giants Foundry or if it's buffing. I would definitely agree buffing normal smithing. But yeah, that gap is so wide, and I miss just some generic smithing at an anvil.
Yep,
that's,
and you can't do it now because it's bad in every possible way.
And it's so essential. It's such classic RuneScape, and I hate that it feels like it feels like they've taken that away in a sense.
Yep, I'm totally with you there. I'm glad you feel the same.
All right, we figured it out. So they're summer sweep up 2035. We'll see. They'll finally fix it. All right, moving on to. I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on the skill of thieving. Thieving is, in my opinion, maybe I would say it is the biggest missed opportunity skill. I feel like there's so much that could be done with it, and it's relegated to, foot pedaling arty knights. For the most part, for most people, but it all really breaks down to spam clicking something for something. And I think probably the number one thing that people have said, and it feels so obvious for thieving, and they've never really implemented it, is like some kind of heist. But I don't know what that would look like. Thieving also feels like kind of in its DNA integrated with agility, and those are just begging to be put together for something. But I don't know. We haven't really seen anything like that come out, and that would be the biggest thing I would like to see from thieving. But what do you think?
Yeah, you may have heard it if you've watched some of my videos talking about the Cave of Wonders idea.
No, I haven't. What's this?
If anybody's ever listened, if everybody's ever watched the classic Aladdin Disney cartoon, where they go into the Cave of Wonders, and Aladdin goes and finds the magic carpet, rubs the lamp, and the cave starts collapsing on them. They barely get out in the nick of time. I don't know if you ever watched that, did you?
Oh yeah, 100 times as a kid.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people know that, and that's the kind of idea. So basically, what it would be is on exclusive worlds. So just be a couple different worlds where you could do it. There would be a cave in the desert that has a certain entrance timer. So everybody enters at once. It's not an instance at all, but it remains static because everybody enters at the exact same time. You can't enter beforehand or after. It's just right then. Everyone's thrown in the lobby. And you'd go in there, and it's like a full-on sepulcher with urns everywhere that you can loot freely. And there's a bunch of obstacles and arrows shooting at you and boulders falling on you. And if you mess up at all, your dude just gets crushed and maybe gets stalled for a little bit, or just instant leaves. But at the very end of the place in this cave, you'd get the lamp. And then what you have to do is you get the lamp, and then you got to run out of there. And maybe even when you get the lamp, you get a magic carpet, and everybody, as soon as you've achieved the thing, now you're on a magic carpet running out of there at 3 ticks, or 3 tiles per tick out of there. Cause I think that's how fast the magic carpets actually go. That could be an additional element to it. I don't even think that needs to be the case necessarily, but I think it would be fun. But it's just going to be this mass entering of all these people, and you're going to be seeing people drop like flies because people are going to be messing up. But you have a certain amount of time to get out of there. So you can loot the lamp and escape, but ultimately this is not a repeatable thing in the fact that as soon as you're out, you can immediately enter. You do have to wait that timer. So what will happen ultimately is you're going to get the lamp, and then you're just going to be looting urns freely all around the place, still dodging stuff. And it's going to be this really fun sort of snappier pyramid plunder type vibe where the urns are not like pyramid plunder. There's not going to be fucking fail. No, it's going to be one ticking these things. It's going to be massive amounts of treasure you can loot from it. But you'll only be able to keep it all if you don't end up dying. And there will be some places that will wipe you entirely. I'd even almost say any mistake will wipe you. But maybe that'll be a bit too harsh. Maybe there'll be some advanced versions of it. But yeah, you eventually do have to escape before it collapses on you. And then you get to rub your lamp, you get the XP, you get thieving, you get agility XP. And it's just been a great little time. So there's obviously more to say on that, but I think that would be a super, super fun additional thing. Kind of like a heist, but in the desert.
I have not heard you talk about this. Are you saying, is this competitive? Is there one lamp that everybody's racing for, or is it one for each person?
So,
okay.
Yeah, you'd just be able to get your lamp. The fun part about it, I think, is just the fact that you're all in there racing. So there would be this kind of bragging rights of getting there first, And maybe there could even be an XP boost because of the fact that this is a like exclusive world thing where it's only going on a few worlds. There actually is an element of racing. You can't just find a solo world and get the XP lamp and get a boost. Ultimately, you would always be competing. So there would be this competition to get there, get the extra XP because you hit the lamp first. But everyone can get one. And then you can only actually rub it once you're out of the cave. So you do have to make it out alive too.
No, I think
it's kind of high risk, high reward. Yeah.
I'm just imagining that like doors opening and just all these like chaos of everybody running in and stuff. That does sound really
so
cool.
Much fun. it'd be so cool to watch. Just people, you're just seeing these noobs drop like flies. A boulder lands on them. You're just laughing at them. Yeah, I mean, just really fun, I think. And like, imagine being able to just repeatedly do that, where you are now just having a blast, and now all of a sudden you're 99 thieving, 99 agility. It's like you didn't even think about it. You're just having a fucking fun time getting hella bank. Maybe you can even get a Pharaoh Scepter down here, so it's a better way. I mean, I would love it if they fixed Pyramid Plunder. That place needs some touching up. The looting urns and failing 7 times in a row is just, what is this? What is going on here?
Yeah.
And if they were to make, I mentioned this in one of my rambles, if they were to make Pyramid Plunder one tickable, as in you just are zipping around each room, one ticking every urn, boom, 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 boom. You find the most optimal path to get them if you want to be efficient. And then you immediately go into the next door. And there isn't that stickiness. You know what I'm talking about when you're doing when you're trying to pick lock those doors to get to the next floor. And there's this sense of stickiness of like, oh, you failed the door. Oh, you did it, but now you have to wait 2 seconds before you even know if it's actually the right one.
Oh, for sure. I'm actually at Pyramid Plunder right now, so I very much know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just not. It's fine. I mean, if you're just going to be like, oh, this is classic content, but objectively, it could have so many improvements to it that would make it so much more fun. And again, if you could one tick the urns, they'd have to obviously tone back the XP. That would obviously have to be touched up as well. But just make it fun. Make it so you're zipping through there. Make it so it's worth looting the urns and stuff, and just, I don't know, and maybe give some actual gold. Who wants these stupid statuettes and shit? Like everyone's just dropping them. It's just you only keep your gold seals basically, so you can charge your Pharaoh Scepter later. Like, why don't you get some money from this thing?
I mean, the items you get are literally made of gold. So yeah, you think, if you could just break them down, it'd be that easy.
Yeah, or just give GP. I mean, just looting an urn, just steal GP. Like, well, why isn't it that simple? I don't know.
Yeah,
bizarre.
Yeah.
So a lot of things there, but
yeah. And
the other
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, I'll actually have you respond to that. I want to touch on pickpocketing, but if you needed to say anything on
I think it does really seem to separate itself, because pickpocketing is just this whole other side of thieving. But for the like kind of active thieving methods, that Cave of Wonders sounds really cool. I love the idea of a mass group of people racing like that. And then kind of going back, I think the other side of that, I would love to I still would love to see some kind of a heist. A long
totally.
Drawn out, like running. I mean, they literally, you go on the rooftop, there's the agility right there, breaking in and stuff. For whatever whatever reward would come from it, I don't know, but something along those lines. I feel like it's got to come eventually. It's been suggested in many different forms over the years. But yeah, it seems like with thieving, there are these things that we're talking about, but it does seem like all roads kind of come back to pickpocketing, which I think that I really, really like what they did in Varlamore. I would like to see some stuff along those lines, but what are your thoughts on pickpocketing?
Yeah, I mean, Varlamore, they tried and they failed in a number of ways. One of them is, okay, why are we giving a metric fuck ton of these house keys? The house key should be the special part. The house key should be the thing that like, oh, hell yeah, I got a house key. Now I'm going to get the big bucks and the chillness.
Yeah.
I think that's what was missing. They way overdid it. Like nobody's ever going to use all their house keys they get if they're doing that traditional Varlamore. And it's not even worth doing. It just feels awful being in the house. Like you're getting not even good XP. The loot's horrible. There's no chance of like an actual unique. Just bad. And they need to introduce that though and make it way better, where the keys are rare, and then you stack up any amount of keys you want. Now you have that beautiful luxury of just chilling in a house for 5 minutes, just full AFKing, looting everything. And they need to go beyond Varlamore. They need to do this to Darkmire. They need to make it so you can thieve Vires and get Vire house keys. And now you go into the house, and these need to be rare. I mean, these need to be, you know, 1 in 250 or something for a house key. But these houses will give you a good 5 or 10 minutes even of just full AFK, where you're in there, enhanced chance at a blood shard. I would love it if Mauritania Elite were to give you an increased chance of these keys, an increased chance of blood shards in general. I think even the keys alone would be enough, because it's going to prevent bots from doing it really as much. So, or it's not going to prevent bots from doing it, but it's going to encourage like normal players, and they're going to get a nice advantage. I know this isn't about, this is about thieving, not blood shards, but blood shards is a whole nother topic I just want to slightly touch on, which is Slayer tasks for Vires. That needs to be a 5x multiplier. I've actually always almost been against that kind of system of the 5x multiplier on task stuff. I hated the Basilisk Jaw having that and the Dragon Harpoon having that. But if you get a vampire task, you really should be on a 5x multiplier to get a blood shard, so that you have the advantage over all the bots that are there and the gold farmers. And then Mauritania Elite should offer a little like exclusive area. Maybe even every elite or every diary you do in Mauritania gives you a slightly increased chance of a blood shard. And then pickpocketing, I swear, like that just needs to be increased. I don't know why it's 1 in 5,000. That needs to be like 1 in 3,000 at absolute max. But that's a separate thing. But I needed to share my thoughts on that. But pickpocketing, there's one more idea that I've had, which is sort of like the day alt of thieving. And what I mean by this is, yeah, we could still have the dodgy necklaces. Yes, we can still have the spell, and it would still be worth having this. But what I'd want to see is a really AFK sort of method where you can build up this stun deflector, basically. It's like kind of like a stun deflector or it's a stun remover, basically. And it would be something so simple where it would probably be done from thieving as well. Like, just imagine I don't even know. You get these stun deflectors, but it wouldn't be efficient getting the stun deflectors. But you're spending a lot of AFK time building up this stack of stun deflectors. And what happens is whenever you are stunned, you can instantaneously click this stack of stun deflectors, however many you've built up, and it instantly removes the stun, and you're back to pickpocketing. So this would obviously massively increase your XP per hour, but these are untradeable stun things that took you a decent amount of time getting very minimal XP, getting them, so that then you can benefit doing the actual pickpocketing and not having to deal with the endless frustrations of getting stunned. So it's sort of like a day out where you spend more time. It's not going to be efficient, but you can AFK, gather all these stun things, however that's going to be obtained, and then you can utilize them and have a way more pleasant time pickpocketing and get way more XP per hour because you're not getting stunned. I would love a system like that.
No, I haven't ever heard that proposed before. I love it. Obviously, you spoke to me with, comparing it to day alt, but the thing that I kind of get from that is interesting to me is I've always avoided Mauritania thieving and elf thieving because you get stunned so much, and you do get a big XP drop when you are successful, but it's just, even at 99, you're getting stunned so much. And so people usually, you go to Arty Nights and stuff, and you're still getting stunned, before you hit the level you don't get caught anymore. But like you're foot pedaling it, so you're not thinking about it, and it's whatever. I got stunned, I'm not really paying attention. But I feel like if I had that system that you're talking about, I would be more likely to go to elves and to go to Vires because those stuns wouldn't aggravate me quite as much. And I think that would be a really cool system to add into thieving.
Yeah, I mean, it could even be something where you don't even have to click the stun thing. It would just be automated, like Gargoyle Smasher. It's just an automated thing where as soon as you're stunned, it uses one. It uses one of these things. They're untradeable. This is not going to be abusable in any way. It's just going to make it so you could build up this massive stack when you're AFKing at work. And now you can go enjoy the hell out of pickpocketing. And you're just going to, you're going to burn through them quite quickly unless you've built up a huge stack of them. But every time you're stunned, instantly makes you unstunned. But you would still, the cool part about this is dodgy necklaces are still worth it. And the Shadow Veil spell is still worth it because you don't want to be getting stunned repeatedly. You want to reduce as many stuns as you can so that your amount of stun deflection, stack isn't depleting as quickly. So everything is still in full use, but you'd have this additional thing that just fully removes all the frustration from it. I think that would be just an amazing addition because Jesus Christ, getting stunned repeatedly is just not fun.
So bad.
It's horrible gameplay.
Yeah.
It needs to be reimagined. It's horrible.
No, yeah. If I'm being honest, I think that of everything we've talked about so far, if I could pick one skill to have all of your stuff instantly in the game, this might be it because I really like that. And I also really like the house key idea because I'm imagining, kind of with how I play the game, I could actively get a bunch of keys and then when I'm AFK, I could go and I could dump, 10, 15 keys and just have this, extended period where I'm, kind of knocking them all out and having this much more AFK chill house looting time. And that could be, making thieving not just spam clicking or foot pedaling something. I really like both of those ideas and the Cave of Wonder. Yeah, I think I would pick thieving for which of your ideas I like the most.
Thank you. I think, the house idea was just brilliant on Jagix's part. They didn't execute it properly. But yeah, they should do that with Prif. They should do it with Darkmire. They should allow you to gather these keys. And honestly, they should kind of make it localized almost. Like they should make it so when you enter in a house, you really do get that full, whatever it be, 5 or 10 minutes of just looting there. You're looting a drawer for a good 2 minutes and you got to go to the next drawer or something. Maybe you could keep looting the drawer, but it's only going to give you a little bit less once the time's passed. So there's a bit of activity you can do, but you really could just full AFK one drawer and you have a chance of getting blood shards, that would be fucking amazing. But the only way you were able to get those keys because they're untradeable is by doing traditional fires in the first place.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'll say on the blood shard thing is that if they release this new Grandmaster Mauritania quest and there's no alternative way to get blood shards, that is insane to me. But
that would be.
I'm kind of putting all my chips on that because I'm surely they got to do that. There's been so much, talk from the community but anyways, so we'll move on to our final skill, which is woodcutting. So woodcutting, one of the most classic skills in the game. It is maybe the most RuneScape thing in all of RuneScape. And in my opinion, they fucked it all up. I consider forestry to be potentially one of the worst updates they've ever had to the game. And I might be a little aggressive with this because I have actually been doing a lot of woodcutting recently. And every time a forestry event pops up, it's like, oh, my beautiful, chill AFK time. Now I either have to feel like I'm missing out on something or I have to break out of that and do something that feels very weird. And especially if you're doing it on mobile, it's like, I don't even know what you're going for here. What are your thoughts on woodcutting?
Yeah, forestry was a nightmare. It could have been so much worse if the community hadn't been backlashing over the part 2 that was about to drop. It was just, they did good things in forestry. One of the good things was giving trees default timers, so you don't just chop one log and it depletes. That was a great change. Another great change was giving a very, very minimal boost to having more people chop your tree, so you're not getting affected negatively by people ragging your tree. That was another really positive change. But what they really needed to do, in my opinion, was not have any of these events going on. They didn't need to add all these weird currencies and stuff. I know it's in the game, so I don't think about it much as whatever. But back in that time, if we could just go back in time, I would have preferred it to just have one event that's quite rare, and it's like an evil tree. Something as simple as that, where an evil tree can spawn and you got to beat it up and whatever else they would have during that. And then you get some potential chance at some cool uniques or something, or a pet transmog. But yeah, I think they just went way too crazy. It's just bizarre. It feels Toontowny. Everything feels just unnecessary and forced. And all they needed to do was just go in and look at the balancing of the trees. Like, why do magic trees still give you 25k XP an hour? Like, what is going on? Like, rebalance this. Why this does not need to be this slow. It really does not. You could have boosted this up to 60k XP an hour. Make it really close to redwoods, at 99. Like at yew trees could have been rebalanced. Like all of these trees could have been slightly rebalanced to actually make sense, but they didn't. It's like, that was the bizarre part. Screet Monge actually is a guy I just had on my podcast, the Sae Bae Cast, yesterday. He was talking about this woodcutting method, and he has a visual of it toward the end of the podcast, and he's basically introducing a sort of like tree contract sort of thing. It's nothing like rumors or anything, but what it does is you pull up what looks like a clue scroll, kind of. It's like the visual he had like some unlisted YouTube videos showing it off with his creator's kit. It just kind of like had these cool animations. But basically what you can do is you have a marked path of trees in a forest, whether it be a forest already in the game or they're going to be introducing new forests. But I mean, look at just behind Lumbridge Castle, you get a bunch of trees. And basically what you can do is you have a bunch of marked trees and you click on the trees and they are instantaneously chopped down by just running over. And there's a sweet axe animation. It's like boom, boom, boom. You're just going through this whole forest, clearing it out. And you have, he even went crazier with it, where like you have like a special attack of like if there's like 3 trees that are like adjacent to each other, they all get chopped down all at once. And it was just a really interesting way to go about woodcutting, where it's very traditional. It's still woodcutting, but it's just satisfying as hell because you're just running around chopping trees instantaneously. And yeah, I mean, there's more to go into it. I think he had some other details with it and all, but it's a really cool way to kind of see it as more sort of engaging. You could still do the traditional AFK chopping, but this would be like a more active activity that's just fun, and you're running around and you're clearing forests, and you got to mark the designated, or you got to chop the designated trees potentially, or find the optimal path to click these. It was just cool. So I wanted to give him a shout out on that. But ultimately, yeah, woodcutting feels quite old school. I'm with you about forestry, kind of bastardizing it in a certain way, but it's like there's so many different ways to go about it. People often just do redwoods. I'm probably, as soon as I unlock Song of the Elves on this account, I'm going to do some 2-tick teaks most likely. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's got some good elements to it right now. But again, also circling back to that idea of having like those little like log storages where you are traditionally chopping trees would be great. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
That would be great at, I was a big fan, and mostly because I was on a main, so I was just carrying about XP of blister woods, because it never goes away. And as long as that spider doesn't bite you. But yeah, the pain point there is that dropping them. So that would be cool with blisterwood specifically. If you could just dump your logs and keep going for the XP. I mean, it's no profit, but
it'd be so good. It'd be so good, especially if it was like a construction hotspot that you have to build first. So there is a requirement to it. You got to build the thing. Maybe it upgrades, kind of like Cox chests. Where it's like you can have one that holds more.
Yeah.
And then, you could just chop a whole inventory, click the thing, go back to the tree, and just chill out. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great.
Yeah. I do want to say for forestry, I think one thing I do think I like about forestry is a lot of the rewards that they offered. And I think all they had to do was the things you talked about with the timers and everything, and then just make the anima bark just a passive if you have your forester's kit on. Just something you get as you're chopping trees, and then you can buy. I think a lot of the rewards are pretty cool. I don't like the look of the new lumberjack, but it's like there's a lot of little quality of lives in there and stuff that I think are really cool. And it literally could have just been that, and it would have been amazing. It would have been a beloved update to make woodcutting even better. But yeah, as it stands, it's like this annoying thing that I just don't want to do. But I really like that pitch. I haven't listened to that pod you're talking about. But the funny thing keeps jumping out to me as you're describing that is that literally is forestry. Like that's what forestry actually is you're taking out like a forest. So that's a really cool idea.
I mean, that was their kind of intention with it. I feel like that's what we were trying to get. But really what it is just people massing up at Drainer Village and just sitting there repeatedly. They're not actually like clearing out it. They're not like adventuring into a forest and really clearing it out. Just let's sit at these couple trees and just keep chopping them, waiting for events.
Yeah.
So his pitch, I think, really was to find, it would almost be like there would be cool forests, you know, around Relica or around Lumbridge or even around Drainer Manor where you're just chopping down dead trees and they're just be like, you're just hacking them away and they're actually clearing out. Like you just see all the stumps that you've just cleared until you're fully finished with the contract or whatever. So awesome. This is an interesting take, and it was just a little bit more engaging. But
no, I love the crazier ideas and the more expansive ideas. But yeah, that's all of the skills. I think, you know, I'm surprised by, you know, I expected maybe more just like expansions and stuff, but I do think there is so much good stuff in this game with skilling. And yeah, I think some tweaks here and there with a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. I mean, even freaking Giants Foundry just is a one update away from being like top tier. And there's, I'm a skilling lover. You're a skilling lover. There is so much to love in skilling, and we just want this awesome thing to be even better. But yeah, Sae Bae, thank you so much for sticking out a long podcast and coming along. I'm so happy to hear your thoughts on all these different skills.
This was great, man. I mean, seriously, you reached out and you asked exactly, you know, what I would be most passionate about talking about, which is skilling. It's great and you're a wonderful host. You've just done a great job. You've let me speak and you're really good at this. So this was a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. Once again, I find it hard to believe that anybody listening to this podcast doesn't know you or what you do, but just for anybody who doesn't, would you like to shout out where we can find you?
Yeah, so I stream quite often on Twitch, twitch.tv/Saeder, Saeder. I just go by Sae Bae, but that's my real first name, and so I just use that as my handle. youtube.com/Saeder as well, where you can find me. I'm known for hosting my own podcast, the Sae Bae Cast. We're going on 244 episodes now this Sunday. I get guests from all across the game, including JMods and other people. So if you're into the podcasting, definitely can check out some episodes. I'm sure you'll recognize some faces there. And definitely just a huge Iron Man nerd. So I love the game, really passionate. But yeah, the podcasting, I do YouTube and I do Twitch streaming. That's where you can find me. So yeah, but thank you very much, Trey, for having me on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming. And thank you everyone for listening. And we will catch you guys on the next one.